Impulse on your ass, wild wonder. Orders given to me, it's striking up thunder. While lightning fast reflexes on constant alert from the constant hurt that seems limitless with no drop of pressure. Seems like everybody's out to test you till they see you break. You can't conceal the hate that consumes you. I'm the reason why you feel your Sousa. Chill with your old lady at the tilt. I got a 90-day extension and I feel with guilt from things done and seen. The water's from a bottle, mine's from a canteen. At night I hear the shots swing, so I'm a light sleeper. The cost of life seems to get cheaper. Out in the desert with a street sweeper. The war is over, so said the speaker. With the fight suit on. Maybe to him I'm just a pawn, so he can advance. Remember when they used to dance? Man, all I wanna do is dance.
What's up, gang? How's it going? How's it going? For those who are curious about the song, that is Gorillaz, and that's a group Gorillaz, and the song's called Dirty Harry. It's a great song. I love it. I've listened to Gorillaz since I was actually, I think, in middle school, believe it or not. So since I was like 13, been one of my favorite bands. If there's anything close to my favorite band, it's probably Gorillaz. I mean, they're just so diverse in their musicality. I mean, they go between rock, rap, hip hop, electronic, pop, whatever it is, it's good. So I love them. But how y'all doing? I see we got 42 people watching right now. That is awesome. That is so good. I apologize. Yesterday, I got my dates mixed up about Randy's interview. That was a great space. I had so much fun getting to talk to Randy, getting to talk to Tiny, getting to talk to Dalton, Bishop Hundelgroiper. I think Chad Champion was there, but he was named like Dandy or something. He was on a different account. So it was a really good time. But I apologize for mixing up my dates there. I some things are changing in my life and all that. So I've been a little focused on, just kind of getting my affairs in order in a good way, right? Things are changing in a good way. So I've been a little scatterbrained as of recent, but it was good. So Demon Days is a classic. Yes, it is, man. Gorillaz is good indie music. I love Gorillaz. Yeah. Favorite Gorillaz album? Honestly, Demon Days. Man, it was called Plastic Beach that had the song Plastic Beach. Plastic Beach is really good. And then their OG that I can't remember the name of that came, I think, out in like 2000, 2001. That was a really good album too. Even their newer stuff is really solid too. I mean, they had that one album that came out in like, what was it, 2017? And it was all right. It had some bangers on there, but it wasn't that good overall. But Humans. Humans was okay. That one was kind of fine, but then after that, they got a lot better and really sort of recaptured that like musicality and stuff like that. But so, I was not expecting, just to give context before we get into reacting and recapping it, I was not expecting to do an Instagram live with Doyle, or John Doyle. I totally thought he was not going to accept my request. I thought I was just going to be brushed aside or whatever, but I appreciate that he did. I mean, on my part, I'm very appreciative that he did. I think that there was a lot of productivity to sort of the discussion. And I'm glad, we could keep it civil and cordial, but it also fundamentally revealed my problem with him and why I stopped supporting him and why I stopped being vocal in my support with him, right? Which was essentially him admitting to me and admitting to the audience on that live that, yes, this is his thoughts. Yes, I know that the Jews are doing this stuff, but we shouldn't talk about it because mavot. And at this point in politics, at this point, when we're talking about like endgame stuff, like civilization ending kind of elections and political decisions and candidates and what have you, We can't be silent on the JQ. We can't. It is a problem. And if you're too scared to alienate your boomer audience and too scared to risk alienating them at the cost of talking about that, you're not doing politics, bluntly put. We have to talk about the Jewish question. It doesn't do us any good to make videos about pornography if we're not talking about who's selling us that pornography. It doesn't do any good for us to do videos about Hollywood if we're not talking about who's running Hollywood. It doesn't do any favors to us to talk about America First policy in terms of international affairs if we're not talking about who keeps dragging us into wars over and over and over again and why they keep doing that. And so, bluntly put, if you're unwilling to talk about the Jewish question at this point, and especially with what's going on with Israel-Palestine currently, the conflict over Gaza, you're not serious about politics. And that was fundamentally my problem with Doyle. You know, I felt, I'll be honest, you know, talking to him, I felt a little bad about the jokes I made and stuff like that. I can go a little too far, don't get me wrong. But I do still stand by my criticisms of John. You know, buddy, can't be silent about that stuff anymore. This is affecting us, and people are losing their lives and having their lives be destroyed because of the Jewish question. And if we're too weak and cowardly to speak about that question, if we're too concerned with, you know, keeping our shows or keeping our platforms, we will never truly get over the issues in politics that affect us. And especially at the heart of it, we are Catholic men. And the Jews do not like the Catholic Church. I don't care if they're right-wing Jews. I don't care if they're left-wing Jews. They are all united in their rejection of Christ as the Messiah and their rejection of the Catholic Church. And if you're unwilling to speak about that as a Catholic, you are either too stupid, too blind, or dishonest to be not speaking about that issue. And I don't expect every single person to speak about that issue. I get it. You know, someone working at Catholic Answers doesn't need to be speaking about that. Don't get in the way of people who are. That's the ultimate thing I've always said. You don't have to speak about it. Don't get in our way, though. We need to be able to talk about the issue of Jewish power in America and how it directly is negatively impacting the church in America. And if you are unwilling to touch that subject, if you are not going to touch that subject, then don't get in the way of the people who do. Don't make videos about us. Don't make videos where you debunk us, and you don't actually debunk us. You basically, the entire video is this pedantic exercise in mental gymnastics saying, yeah, I basically know that, you know, they are doing this stuff. They are selling us pornography. They are completely anti-Catholic, and they make nunsploitation films and films that depict the church as corrupt or whatever. But just don't talk about it. Be silent on it. Just don't talk about it. Brush that aside. It's unreal that people would seriously have that kind of frankly unholy silence on this issue. Because we're not calling for anything unethical. I have always been transparent about that. I am not calling for anything unethical against Jewish people at all. My faith does not compel me to do that. But what I am calling for is a Catholic government. And people who do not believe in Christ, and not only do not believe in Christ, but also actively blaspheme him in their religion, cannot be leading our government. Bluntly put, they cannot be in positions of power. If they are in positions of power, they will do us no favors, and they will not give us the Catholic civilization we are looking for. So that's what came out during the Doyle conversation, was this inability to just speak about the issues as they are. I understand tact. I understand that you're not going to necessarily always lay all your cards on the table in terms of elections or election cycles or what have you. But an unholy silence, an inability to speak about the issues that are really affecting Americans is not the way forward. And that was my ultimate disappointment with the discussion I had with him. Also, Anonymous, thank you so much for the $10. Really appreciate it, brother. If you guys have any super chats or whatever, powerchat.live/pinesap3. If there's anything that you want to say or communicate. Let me pull up the footage here of the debate, and debate discussion, and we're going to review it. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, great. Okay. So, let me know if you guys hear this.
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Hello, Mr. Pinestab.
How's it going, brother?
It's going all right. You know, I've sort of got myself in a little pickle here, but happy to have any good faith discussion about the issue.
Yeah, I'll keep it good faith. I know we disagree and stuff like that, but I'll try and keep it to a level that's appropriate and stuff like that.
You know, I don't know if we even do disagree. To be honest, I'm genuinely confused as to what the issue is. I think that when you and I had our sort of falling out, well, I don't think we've ever actually spoken together, but I think you had some Telegram posts that were not charitable towards me during the whole Kanye West thing, and when Fuentes and I had our falling out, which would have been in winter of 2022, which I was disappointed to see because I enjoy your content, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm interested to hear the take, ready to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I think essentially with the Kanye thing, it all comes down to really sort of him shifting the Overton window in a manner of speaking about, the Jewish question. I mean, a lot of people, when we bring up the Jewish question, I think they have a tendency to sort of say, we all think that Jews meet in this giant, chamber, right, where they have these discussions and they scheme together. And they wring their hands like the happy merchant meme or what have you. But I think rather the issue doesn't come so much from that. I mean, that's just straight up a straw man, right? Of course, there's not some random chamber, maybe the tunnel's in New York, but not it. I'm just kidding. But I think really what the issue comes down to, and the reason why people like myself are so insistent upon speaking about the Jewish question, is because it holds a special opposition to Catholicism specifically. I think this came up during the Adam King debate, where Adam King was asked explicitly, by Vincent James. Of course, I'm not sure if you caught that debate, where he was tasked with banning a certain religion, right? And it was either Islam or specifically Catholicism, not just generic Christianity, but specifically Catholicism.
Yeah.
And he said Catholicism, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a strange answer because, there aren't Catholics really out here burning synagogues. There aren't Catholics who are launching rockets to Tel Aviv or anything like that, or trying to take down the Iron Dome. And I think one has to wonder, why is it that Adam King, and not just Adam King, but all these, whether they're Reform, Orthodox, like Rabbi Barclay, or I even remember Judith Butler, the sort of progressive queer writer. You maybe saw her clip on the timeline today about her just openly admitting she's okay with promoting pedophilia, just openly admitting that. I think essentially what we're trying to talk about or have a conversation over is, why can we not talk about the fact that whether these people seem to be Orthodox or Reform or even, quote unquote, secular Jews, they all seem to be consistent in their opposition to the social kingship of Christ and Catholicism.
So pause it there, right? I've gotten better about when reacting to videos, not pausing it every single square inch. But so that's my opening, right? And, John opens and he says, well, I don't understand why we have this contention, right? I don't understand why we have this problem and stuff like that. And, again, I don't hate John Doyle. I don't have any hatred for him at all. But my problem is that, number one, I am fiercely loyal to Nick, right? Excuse me. You throw Nick under the bus, I don't like you anymore. I liked Steve Franson. I liked him a lot. And, he likes to think that, like, because I was kind of making fun of his whole peaceful parenting, if I spank my child, he's going to be the next, Joseph Stalin or Adolf Hitler thing, that it was like all my affection towards him as a friend was illegitimate before. That wasn't the problem at all. I had no problem that he even left politics. What I had a problem with is he started giving these very weird, cryptic messages about, Christian nationalism's already been tried, and we need philosophy, not Christian nationalism. Right? When he leaves AF, he suddenly stops posting as much about Catholicism. He suddenly stops posting as much about Christ. It becomes sort of more like a red pill kind of like, women suck and men need to, man up and be the dad that they need to be kind of content. And I got onto him because it seemed very backhanded towards Nick. It seemed very, like a backhanded way of kind of complaining about him, right? And so he is an example of one of these types where they might be like, well, Pine Sap, why do you have a problem with me? Well, I have a problem with you because you stabbed Nick in the back, right? You leave AF, and then it becomes an exercise in, let's badmouth, let's talk bad about AF, let's throw everyone under the bus, rather than just leaving peacefully and on your own accord. I would not agree if someone, for instance, just stopped being politically involved and they were in AF and they left on their own accord and didn't countersignal AF. I would disagree with someone treating them negatively or what have you. Look, I get it. Politics is a tiring game. Streaming, politics, all this stuff is a tiring game. You can't do it forever, and especially if you're a father and a husband, you might have to just leave it, even just for the sake of taking care of your family and putting what matters first, right? Putting your relationship with God first, putting your family first, putting things in their respective boxes. I don't think anyone should be given crap for that, especially if you've given your time and your energy to this movement. But what I don't like is when people, again, they leave, right? And then there's this like backhanded kind of like, I'm going to talk crap about everyone who I was once associated with, right? And that's my issue. That's my fundamental problem. It's like, it's not enough for them to just leave and be silent and peaceful and on good terms. It always has to be this like weird airing out the dirty laundry when there really is none, in order to, countersignal everything we're trying to do. And so that's what John Doyle did. John Doyle was not a part of AF, right? He wasn't a part of AF, but what he was someone who was at least AF adjacent. He was someone who at least was associated in a remote way with AF. And we had really sort of at that time the same goal. And then it seemed like when the whole American Virtue, APU, that kind of thing was going on, he took it as an opportunity to, throw Nick under the bus. He called Nick a Fed. I'm pretty sure he called Nick a Fed on the Twitter space that he did about him, disavowing AF and saying that like all groypers are like losers or feminists or sorry, not feminist. I read Bob H's a message in chat, very feminine behavior. I read his message in chat and like my mind went to feminist. It was like a memory recall moment, that all groypers are lame losers who live in their mom's basement and never work out and never take care of themselves. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Look, I don't expect Doyle to necessarily, he has his shtick. He has his thing he's doing. And I don't expect him to become a carbon copy of Nick, right? He has his own brand. But it's like what I said at the start of the stream. Don't step on our toes. Don't get in our way. The moment you get in our way, you go from being a ally to someone who is actively opposed, to someone who is a fifth column to what we're trying to do. And the whole messaging I get from John here is he's like, well, I don't know why we have this problem. Well, we have this problem because you're counter-signaling people who are strong enough to talk about the Jewish question. You threw your fellow Catholics under the bus because we wanted to talk about Jewish power. And you said like we weren't being tactical, we weren't, infiltrating and doing all this stuff. And it's like, John, right now, everyone is seeing the role that AIPAC plays in American politics, even the left. Right now, people are seeing what the Jews are doing in Israel to the Palestinians, the ways that they are waging war on them, a full-scale war, and killing men, women, and children who have never picked up a rifle. And they're deploying white phosphorus, and they're bombing the living crap out of housing complexes that are not full of terrorists. When is it okay to talk about the Jewish question? When does that become acceptable? When does that become palatable for you, dude? With all due respect. Because right now, this is the moment, dude. This is the golden opportunity to wake up some boomers and say, hey, man, what is going on? Why are they doing all these things? But if you look at his Twitter activity and you look at kind of the activity he's been doing, Randy tipped $10. Thank you, Randy. I feel so bad for Chad Sapp. He has to fight off all the black shotties trying to marry him. Heart. You know, it ain't easy being green, my brother. It ain't easy being Groiper green, as a famous frog once said. So I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, dude, that was such a funny story on the interview yesterday. I don't know what it is, but it's like, you know, I'll see this, like, you know, this beautiful white woman who I'm like, that could be the mother of my children. And I'll try to raise her up. And it goes like decent. I'm not horrible at it. I know how to talk to women or whatever, but you know, that just goes normal. But then it's like black women just would sometimes like almost like throw themselves at me. And I'm like, what's going on? It's like my Riz radar is turned the wrong direction. I have to turn it to these white Catholic women, man. What's going on? You and Stroker are beating away the black shotties with a stick. That's what I'm saying, dude. Richard Stroker and me, you know, we have to deal with so much in that department. I don't know what it is. I don't know, you know, what is wrong with our radars or what have you, but you know, heavy is the burden that a gooner has. You know what I'm saying? Heavy is the burden. But anyhow, essentially, this is the crux of the issue. So, you know, I felt a little bad when he said that because I'm not trying to have ill will towards John, but I do stand by the fact of like, dude, you throw my friends under the bus. You throw people who have DM'd me like my mom just died. You know, like I've had Groipers like DM me like my mom died and what you posted really helped me. I've had Groipers DM me and be like, I'm struggling in my marriage, right? And I'm trying to be a faithful Catholic man. And my wife, you know, who we both got married when we were Protestant, she's not taking well to it. What do? I am down in the trenches with these guys. And for you to like throw them under the bus and be like, yeah, they're gross basement dwellers and they're not even worth the time of day and they're spurgs and stuff like that. That's what I was offended by. I liked you when you didn't insult my friends. I liked you when you didn't throw my leader under the bus. But when you do that, it's called having a sense of loyalty. It's called having a sense of gumption to say, I don't like what you did to my friends. You attack my friends, you attack me. That's an attack on me. What kind of man would I be if it's like, oh yeah, you can say that Nick's a Fed and you can say that he's, you know, like actively kind of destroying the right wing and, you know, he's never going to be you know, popular in politics and that all Groipers are just basement dwelling spurgs who, you know, need to get more time outside. I'm okay with that. No, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that in the slightest. So my problem with him was that he decided to throw people who I love and I care about under the bus. And at that point, we do have beef. We do have a problem. It's called loyalty. You know, have these guys want to talk about masculinity. You know what's masculine? Being loyal to your friends. Standing by your friends when someone else attacks them. I'm not out here to just be nice with everybody and for content or to network. This isn't just a job, right? This isn't me clocking into a 9 to 5. This is real. These people are my friends, right? And for anyone to throw them under the bus like this and throw them aside is just putrid. It's disgusting, right? And so, you know, there was that element. And then the other element I want to touch real quick, and we can continue on the stream, is I bring up the fact of like, look, AV and John Doyle, the only way that they're able to criticize our approach to the JQ is by straw manning us. So they'll maybe, you know, take a screenshot of a Groiper saying like on Twitter, you are Jewish and that sort of thing, which is more just a rhetorical thing of just storming out the opposition, right? It's a rhetorical element of saying like, hey, you know, here's the voice of the people. The voice of the people are not on your side, right? That's the rhetorical effect of something like that. But they'll take that and they'll say, hey, look at this random Anon Groiper. Is this really the strategy that you want? And then they have to pretend like our contention is like, oh, all Jewish people meet in this secret underground base in the middle of the earth, and they all scheme about how they're going to sell us pornography and, you know, manipulate TV to, you know, depict all white people in a mixed race couple so that white people won't want to have white children anymore. And also how the church is evil and should be destroyed and dismantled. And then they leave that chamber and they go to their respective jobs. I don't know a single person who said that. What I have seen people say is like, even the guy I've been watching recently, I think his name is GDE or GDX on, YouTube, right? Talking about like the Israel lobby and demonstrating how the Israel lobby plays a huge role in our politics is actively subverting the political arena. When the USS Liberty gets attacked, every senator who remarked on the attack had to couch their remarking on the events of the USS Israel being attacked, which today is the anniversary of it being attacked, with just praise and adulation about how wonderful Israel is, the resilience of the Jewish people. They've been so resilient. They've been through so much. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're bringing up. We're not talking about some secret base or that they have telepathic abilities or whatever. We're not doing the stupid straw man bit. It's like we're actively bringing up, it's like, why did the neocons in, 2001, right? Why were they able to use 9/11 as a Pearl Harbor event to go send our boys over to Iraq to fight over non-existent WMDs that they knew there were no WMDs there, and cost the lives of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I believe it was either hundreds of thousands or at least thousands of Americans, and millions of Iraqis. Oh, because Iraq is a threat to Israel. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy, right? That's the real reason we fought in Iraq. Not because Iraq was an actual threat to us. Iraq was never going to do anything to us. But because Israel wanted its Shabbos goys to go over there and gun down and destroy a stable government in the Middle East. So now ISIS can move in and slavery can be reinstituted and Sharia law can be reinstituted in the Middle East. Wow. Congratulations. So when we bring this up, all the rhetoric becomes, right? It goes from being like, here's this straw man position that literally no one in your circle holds, right? And then when we blow through that, like I just did, it then becomes, well, that might be true, but our boomer audience doesn't want to listen to it. Our boomer audience thinks two dudes can get married. Our boomer audience is okay with like Lady MAGA, a dude who dresses like a woman, but he's patriotic. Our boomer audience is okay with abortion in most cases. That's what our boomer audience wants. Our boomer audience has like mail order Thai brides that they married because you can't get remarried after they divorced their wife of like 40 years. So they can buy a new boat and buy a second house, and their kids can be on drugs because they're destroyed and in a broken home. That's what our boomer audience wants. So frankly, I don't give a crap what our boomer audience wants. Boomers don't know what they're talking about. There are some who do, but most boomers, bluntly put, don't know what they're talking about. They don't know politics. They watch CNN, and all they care is about my boat, my beer, my guns, my freedom. And that's it. So this whole idea of like, we have to appeal to them to win elections. It's like, to what extent do we have to water down our politics to appeal to them? To what extent? Because on virtually every Catholic position, screw the right wing at this point. Every Catholic position will be undermined if our focus is, how can I appeal to the boomers? Boomers use contraception. Boomers are okay with all this degenerate crap. Why do you think our society is the way it is? It's because of boomers. So that can't be the hermeneutic of thought that we operate with in politics. We have to be focused on truth, right? And I'm all for being tactical in how that's delivered. I'm all for just not spurging out and being like, my Jews and, Charlie, I've got a question, goes up to Charlie Kirk. Have you ever heard about the USS Liberty? The day, we're not talking about telling Charlie Kirk at the open mic, hey, go watch Europa: The Last Battle. I get being tactical. I get optics. But optics does not mean cucking on your overall message. And that's what John can't understand. That's what came up during this conversation. So we're going to continue on.
I think it's exactly as you described. I think that if you have a people whose identity is based upon a rejection of Christ, then of course they're going to be disproportionately represented in behavior that would be at the most extreme levels of abomination. So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm glad you agree too. I'm very happy you agree. I'm glad we can kind of come together with that. So, I understand maybe not talking about the Jewish question in a spurgy way, or just saying, I know about the dancing Israelis or what have you. But my question is, why is it when many of us speak about this issue? I saw that video from you recently, and maybe there's a clarification I need, maybe there's something I'm missing. But why is it that we're not able to talk about this issue? Because I understand that boomers most certainly are a more Zionistic generation. I most certainly understand, they're informed by a post-World War II sort of, narrative about, the chosen and what have you. But how are we ever going to affect any change in this country if we're unwilling to talk about, who's distributing pornography, who's, selling us these products or these ideas that are fundamentally opposed to the faith?
I think that, in terms of like the political manifestations that you mentioned, I would sort of reiterate what I was saying earlier, where I don't think that it's impossible to achieve political victories on these issues without, naming them, as they say. Mm-hmm. For example, I've been involved in legislative efforts to make like age verification necessary at the state level to access pornography websites. We didn't have to do that by pointing at fingers and saying exactly who discovered this or who invented this, what books they were burning, in a European country 100 years ago or so. Because I think, like you said, our base are very skittish people. And when they start to hear about, who's really doing this, I think they start to get cold feet. And so, I think that we just have to be a little bit more pragmatic about how we're framing issues. And everything you just said there is very reasonable. And it's tough to see how an American Christian could dispute it. But as I'm sure you know, and this is part of the fun, a lot of the volume of discussion is shitposting, and it's edgy and it's provocative for the sake of being provocative, which I'm not saying that's bad in itself. It's just to say that when you do that, you are now less likely to be able to have the other side of that being something that is politically effective. And so you sort of have to choose your battle. Like, do you want to be somebody who is talking about issues and
is going on? That stuff should be talked about. I'm not castigating.
Sorry, it got cut because the 2-hour limit ended on his live stream, so he had to restart and he brought me back in.
You for that at all, but I could easily see someone being more center right, arguing, well, hey John, if you're bringing that up, if you're bringing up black people beating each other on the bus, or not beating each other, beating up a white woman on the bus, that's going to stoke racial tensions. That's going to get rid of the black vote. That's going to get rid of all those things. So my question then is, at what point do we have a problem with mentioning these issues versus not mentioning these issues to take a political tact?
Well, when we've been politically effective pushing back against issues like that, it isn't because we have people, not to say that this is what is happening with the Jewish stuff, but it's not because we have people being like, fucking blacks, am I right? It's because we can appeal to the sense of...
Excuse me, sorry. I burped there for a moment. Let me pull something up real quick. Relevant to what he was just talking about right here. So we're going to go on his Twitter space. Hopefully I don't have to sign in to scroll down. If I do, I'll just sign in real quick. Okay. So is stuff like this politically effective? Please do not say rest in power, especially not for a white member of the United States Air Force. This is rage bait. Now, I'm okay with rage bait to a certain extent. I post a lot of rage bait over feminism and stuff like that, not because I'm just trying to, bring up stuff to piss you guys off, but to get to the element of hey, when you even support a soft feminism, here's what you get to. When you are overly tolerant of degenerate ideas, here's what you get to. Right? Poison Dark Groiper said, Pinesap, can you wish me a happy birthday? Happy birthday, Poison Dark Groiper. I hope you're having a great birthday, buddy. I don't know if you are actually having your birthday. If you are, then happy birthday. But even if you're not, still happy birthday. But this stokes racial tensions, whether you like it or not. Now, I'm not counter-signaling him for posting this, But someone who's like a member Turning Point USA, a more center-right organization, could easily look at this and say, hey, guys, you know, John, too edgy. Too edgy. You can't be saying that, buddy. Can't be saying that. That's too edgy. You're stoking racial tensions. How about what he said on Pints with Aquinas, where he literally was like, yeah, women get in men's spaces and they infiltrate them and they start to tone police and ruin men's fun. All true. I even complimented him on saying that during the Instagram live. You'll hear that. But there would be a lot of right-wing feminists who would hear that and say, hey, John, can't be talking about that, dude. You're going to alienate women. So we're okay. Like, what I'm trying to understand from him is, what is the line? Because a lot of boomers would consider him sexist. A lot of boomers would consider him racist. Even supposed right-wing boomers. Because they're a bunch of sensitive narcissists who can't handle the truth. They can't handle the fact that Gen Z women, by and large, kind of suck. They're annoying. They're on birth control, and they're completely insane. That's not all Gen Z women, of course. There's a lot of great, faithful Catholic women, right? There's a lot of great women like my sister and stuff like that who are awesome, right? But a lot of Gen Z women suck. Like, they're horrible. They act like spoiled children. But if I say that, there's going to be some boomer who's like, Pine Sap, you're sexist. How could you say that? Now, I don't care. I'm not trying to appeal to them. I could give, frankly, no more or less of a crap if it offends a boomer. But when he's using that as his argument, well, big guy, what's going on right here? Okay? That's not even the worst. I've seen him repost, other stuff like, let's see here. Imagine posting this as a triumphant W over the white man when you, as a very serious D1 track star, only won by like 4 seconds against a guy with no running experience. Talking about race, boomers don't like that. Boomers do not like talking about race, dude. I'll give you an example right now. I brought this book up before, I'll bring it up again. Samuel T. Francis, Writings on Race. This is a great book. This is he truly is like my favorite writer when it comes to race. And the reason I like what he writes, especially on his essay, The Roots of the White Man, is because it truly is beautiful. Like, he doesn't see being white as just like not being black or not being another race. He sees it as like a positive, attribute of who we are. And he evaluates it in a positive manner. He ascertains it in a positive manner. It's a very beautiful essay. Like, if you want to read a very uplifting writing, literally read The Roots of the White Man in this book, or you can probably find it online. Right? But Sam Francis was basically excommunicated from the conservative movement under, the era of the boomers because he talked about race. William F. Buckley was not okay with that. He completely had him excommunicated because he talked about race. Because he talked about being white. And here John Doyle is trying to talk about being white, right? Here's another tweet. 100 ways people of color can make life less safe, life less frustrating for white people. Number 1, use headphones. That is a tweet that if I'm a boomer, I'm going to look at that and be like, John Doyle's racist. Now, John Doyle isn't racist for saying that. And if someone calls him, I don't give a crap, right? It's true. That's a true tweet. I'm not disagreeing with the take at all. But it's one of those things where if a boomer sees you say this, John, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to get an in with them. They don't like talking about race. They're into the whole colorblind meritocracy thing and stapling green cards to diplomas. That's your boomer audience. So if you're, or not his audience necessarily, but that's your boomer constituents when you're talking about like elections or what have you. So you clearly have no problem bringing this up on the timeline for the public to see and to get 9.1K likes. But a boomer would be alienated by your rhetoric here. Now, I think as a graper, as a Catholic man, rightfully so. Boomers suck. They're horrible. I don't mean like my grandparents. My grandparents are awesome, and many of you guys have awesome grandparents too. I'm not talking about my grandparents or lumping my grandparents into there, but it's like most boomers suck. Most boomers do not understand politics. Most boomers are selfish and self-absorbed, and they live in this like hippy-dippy summer 69 world that was invented for them because they lived off the sacrifices of the greatest generation. Because the greatest generation built up this magical world for them, they could believe in all these stupid ideas because they had money and power to do it. Well, now we get to suffer the consequences of their asinine political philosophies, right? We get to suffer the consequences of that. And it's fine that you say this. I personally have no issue with this. But your boomer constituents that you keep railing on me about, you keep bringing up, and it's like, oh, that's alienating, that's alienating. Dude, this is alienating rhetoric right here. This is what I was trying to bring up during our discussion. So how is it that if I then talk about Jews, well, that's the absolute bar none, can't talk about that, that's completely wrong in every which way, shape, and form. But you have no problem, again, mentioning that a lot of black people are loud. That they literally play music on their speakers. They don't use headphones. It's just true. We all know it to be true. So that's my problem with his argumentation. And that's the fundamental hinge on where we have an issue with him. He says, oh, it's about being tactical. It's about not alienating your boomer audience. But then he posts things like this, showing that he's completely okay with talking about certain things that, yeah, boomers are going to be alienated by. So then how are you able to use that as a point when we talk about Jewish power? That's my whole issue. That's the whole crux of this issue is you can't say don't talk about Jewish power and then in the same breath be like black people need to use headphones. You thought you were getting one up on the white man. All fine things to say, all very true things. But by your own estimation of our political talking points, congratulations, you've just alienated the audience that you said I and the other grapers, including our leader Nick, have just alienated because of our rhetoric. You have that same rhetoric, you're just not willing to talk about one particular issue.
Abilities of white Americans by saying things like law and order, clean cities, being tough on crime, or whatever. You can't really recite crime statistics necessarily if you're trying to deal with issues like that. So I think it's just about speaking about things in a way that can appeal to the sensibilities of our voters, which again, I maintain is still possible to achieve sovereignty over American foreign policy. I mean, I mentioned the Trump example earlier. People equate Donald Trump to being like George Bush because he was in the pocket of Zionists, but Donald Trump got us out of the Middle East.
Right.
Donald Trump, relocated an embassy in Jerusalem? I'm not convinced that is something that is like a terrible thing and means that Trump is like handcuffed and he's completely beholden to Zionist interests. So I think it just has to do with framing or any issue that you can think of. There is a way to frame it in a way that's not going to give our base cold feet. I think Tucker Carlson's a great example of this. I just saw him speak recently in Fort Worth, and he gave a speech about the Great Replacement, which it's like, that's crazy that we're talking about that in 2024.
Absolutely.
But he, every 5 seconds, he would take a moment to be like, and it's not about race. It's just because they're different. It's whatever. And so it's like you're kind of giving them this permission, people that are your donors, your audience, to be like, oh, wait, I'm afraid of being called racist because, as we all know, these people have been conditioned to believe these horrible things because they don't control their own media or whatever. And we're just having to deal with that circumstance for what it is. So I think when you give our people who we need to be on board with this permission to, dismiss accusations of bigotry or being a Nazi or being whatever, they are more willing to go along with your ideas. And it becomes very difficult for them to do that if in tandem to your ideas, you have people who are being a little silly, we'll say, being a little silly on the internet. And so I think that it just makes the discussion unproductive.
Now, I would say I do understand.
It makes the discussion unproductive. Tucker has been mocked by boomers because he didn't shill for Ukraine. How many even like Republican tarred boomers were on Twitter being like, he's a fascist because he's going to Russia and he's interviewing Putin and he's talking about how great the metro system is and how he doesn't feel like he's going to get mugged for his wallet. There were right-wing people who were criticizing him for that. And they were boomers and like Gen X people. So even Tucker, like in his more mild-mannered rhetoric, still alienates a ton of the audience that John is talking about. You know, when Vivek Ramaswamy brought up the Great Replacement, how much of the Republican Party tried to throw him under the bus as some kooky racist who, you know, believes conspiracy theories that aren't happening? You know, aren't happening. It is happening. This is what John fails to understand. Even the examples he cited, people are still calling Tucker racist, and they claim to be one of us. They claim to be a conservative, right? They're still calling, or they're calling Vivek racist. They're calling, you know, Tucker a fascist because he doesn't worship capitalism, and he did an interview with, Putin, and praised some elements of Russian society. This is a problem that we keep bringing up. If you seek so much to sacrifice the truth on the altar of victory, you don't really have an altar of victory, do you? Because you're going to elect people. So if you're going to elect the most, like, you know, pie-faced, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, you know, politician out there that doesn't offend boomers, well, it's guaranteed that that person probably isn't also going to share your ideas that's going to truly infiltrate the system. Because the moment, if he's an infiltrator, he's outed as like, hey, this guy doesn't really support Israel. Hey, this guy doesn't really, shill for Jews, or, you know, he doesn't, he's not okay with like certain forms of degeneracy or whatever. I have this secret recording of him. I have these screenshots from text or a group chat or a secret plan that he has. Well, congratulations. Now he's just been outed. And he's going to alienate that audience. Or, and this is the more likely thing that we've all talked about as groypers, he doesn't have those ideas to begin with. And so you're not really going to push everything more right. You're instead just going to have a watered down center-right candidate, a Mitt Romney 2.0, a John McCain 2.0. And there you go. That's your infiltration. You know, good old John McCain 2.0, good old, you know, Mitt Romney 2.0. That's really who we want to run this country. After all the blood, sweat, and tears we poured into trying to remove those people from the Republican Party. Now, I know because of John's content, he has taken issue with those two figures and taken issue with like rhinos, but you're inevitably, with his rhetoric of don't talk about Jews because you're going to alienate people, he's going to push us back in the rhino direction. What good is it if they're slightly a little bit more paleocratic if it's not really making people that right wing? To what extent do we need to then water down our values if it means winning elections? And yes, I get being tactical. I get operating in the difficult game that is politics. I wouldn't expect, you know, John Miller had a great post on this today. I don't expect, you know, Donald Trump to get up on stage and be like, 1488, we must secure an existence for the white race and for our people, and Europa is dying, and this is the last final battle to, you know, reclaim our nation and all of Western civilization for, you know, Catholicism and the white race. I don't expect him to get up on stage and say that, but I do expect him to get up on stage and be like, hey, if we're America first, let's not send billions of dollars of aid to Israel anymore. If we're America first, let's not have AIPAC registered as like a domestic organization. Let's have them be a foreign influencer that shouldn't have any power over Congress or politics. You know? That is what we're talking about. We're not talking about being spurgy. We're not talking about, again, delivering these ideas in a non-optical way. That's why we had the whole problem with like guys like Patrick Little, because they were just, you know, retards who would hang out in like the Barnes and Noble parking lot being like, do you guys know who really did 9/11? Let me hand you my flyer. You know, accosting some random mom with her kid who's probably just, you know, biggest thing on her mind is what she's going to cook for dinner for the kids tonight. That's unoptical. That's retarded. Why would you do that? You know? We're not talking about being glibby and just, shooting from the hip and doing all kinds of, ridiculous political stunts. But what we are talking about is even kind of himself, even he has himself said, there is a way of kind of talking about these issues that people are still going to call you anti-Semitic, and you just got to roll right through it. If Trump said, hey, AIPAC should be considered, foreign influence on our government and shouldn't have any influence in Congress, people would go bananas over that and freak out, and he would be called anti-Semitic. But you know what? Who cares? Who cares? Let them call him anti-Semitic. Do the right thing. Stand up for America. Put America truly first. That's all we're saying. But that's not what we see happening. What we see happening is, Trump is appointing guys who, hated his guts and stuff like that, like J.D. Vance, and he's becoming a part of the establishment that he claimed to, want to drain out in 2016. So this is what John fails to understand. We are all for being tactical. We are all for delivering these ideas in a tactical way. But you do not want to deliver them in the first place because you're too concerned about it alienating the audience. Congratulations. Good luck on your infiltration. Hope it works out for you, because I know it's not going to.
Stand that manner of, no man is red pilled in a day, right? It's like Rome isn't built in a day. No man is red pilled in a day. It took me time. It took many of the people watching time, right? Because we all kind of had a liberal, maybe at most libertarian sort of high school experience, middle school experience. But what I would say is that what it seemed to sort of be amongst groups like American Virtue or what have you, when, they were still active and they're still very prominent, is I think, at least for me and my fellow Groypers initially, and because I'm in the group chats and stuff like that, but we didn't have any problem with necessarily American Virtue taking a sort of softer approach to these issues, or having sort of a approach of like, hey, we're going to kind of like warm you up to these ideas and stuff like that. That's one of those things, right, where we can all cite, I started watching Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, and all those guys. And then, I watched you, and then I watched Nick and all those guys. And there's that natural progression. I think the problem that we have is when it becomes sort of a gatekeeping of the narrative. And it seemed like with American Virtue especially, it was like, we can maybe kind of talk about race. We maybe start to get like further right wing on these issues. And we can kind of try to get up to the line, but don't talk about the Jewish stuff. And I feel as if that has a bit of a connection to the conservatism funding that was coming in, sort of
I got cut off, but I was talking about the whole national conservatism. I can't remember if it's an institute or a think tank, but I think it's run by like Yoram Harzoni or whatever. I was talking about how they fund the Bull Moose Project, which funds American Virtue and APU. And American Virtue and APU are not around anymore, but their ideas and their thought still have the claws dug in to essentially prevent anything, to prevent young men from becoming Groypers. Let's be honest. I mean, we've all heard Endernax, and I actually would like to rewatch it probably on my own time again, but we all heard Endernax give his monologue about what APU started as. It was basically them meeting together and being like, hey, we love Nick. We think Nick's great. We just want to present his ideas in maybe a way that is more palatable to people who are still maybe stuck in like the Turning Point USA, center right, small government, low taxes kind of world. And that seems at first like a very noble idea. But then I think, if I'm getting Endernax's story correct, what started to happen was there was all this money coming in. There was all this other influence coming in that said, oh, no. Yeah, maybe you can talk about like family values and being more religious than like TPUSA and all these organizations, but don't talk about the Jews. Don't talk about the Jews. And don't be super Catholic either. Do you notice how not a single member of APU or AV is really that Catholic? Carson Wolf and like the one other guy that is Catholic are literally like Taylor Marshall, Zionist, Pope Francis is evil and Vatican II's evil, fifth columns to our faith. They're schismatics. Carson Wolf doesn't assent to the Second Vatican Council. I got on to him about this before. And do you know why? Bluntly put, coming from someone who has read the history of, kind of the political movements and stuff like that, leading up to the First Vatican Council and then kind of after, the first thing that Jews attack about the Catholic Church in relation to our faith and trying to split us from the church is the papacy. That is the first thing Jews attack. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, it's the easiest way to make a Catholic into a schismatic. It's the easiest way. If you can have a Catholic basically believe, yeah, I generally believe in Catholic morality. I generally believe in all the principles of our faith and stuff like that. But I'm not going to assent to, I'm not going to assent to what the Pope says. I'm not going to obey his authority. They've succeeded because they give that Catholic the illusion that he's still a faithful Catholic. They give that illusion that he is still a believer in Christ. But spiritually, he has separated himself from the servant of God, or the servant of the servants of God, right? The vicar of Christ, the sweet Christ on earth, as many of the saints have called the Pope, which is a hyperbolic term. We're not saying he's Christ, right? But, Christ's servant. That's the first goal. The second goal is because they have an anti-logos mindset. They are anti-logos. They are anti the risen Christ. Hold on one moment. Had to get something. Because they do not love Our Lady and our Lord, the King and the Queen of Heaven, they will attack the visible papal monarchy that represents the cosmic monarchy of our Lord, because our Lord is a king. They cannot stand our Lord being king of everything. And so when they see the visible head of the church, the Pope, which represents the true head of the church, by his delegation, Jesus Christ our Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ who died on the cross for my sins and your sins, he who we love with all our heart, they want to attack the Pope. That's the reason they attack the Pope. Because he represents that cosmic monarchy. The magisterium of the church is the new Sanhedrin that replaced the old elders who no longer have any spiritual authority because the old covenant has been fulfilled in the new. That's why they attack the papal monarchy. And so the most Catholic members of APU and AV that you had were schismatics who openly railed against Pope Francis over and over and over. And then after that, all you had was anti-Catholic Protestants, Calvinists, James Anderson White, David Carlson's like some kind of Calvinist or whatever, James Anderson White, Vince Dow, who's like an evangelical. And so what they were okay with was basically them being like, hey, you can talk about being a little bit more religious than Turning Point USA does. You can be a little bit more right-wing. You can kind of talk about shutting down immigration and all this stuff. Can't talk about the Jews and can't support the Catholic Church in a real way. Let's go to, I mean, real quick, and we'll continue this. Let's go to one of their YouTube videos.
The sky was clear.
We're not going to watch this video. I just want you guys to see this real quick. I remember when this video came out. How Protestantism built America. How Protestants built America. So what is the messaging in there? What's the real messaging going on? This is a Protestant nation. Listen, Goy, this is a Protestant nation. You can't try and convert it. You can't try and make it not Protestant. Let it be Protestant. It's a Protestants founded this nation, after all. Shouldn't it still be Protestant? Shouldn't it still believe in a false anti-gospel? They did found this nation, after all. James Anderson White putting out a tweet saying, if you're a Catholic, move to Europe or move to Mexico. This is a Protestant country. You're not allowed to convert it. Those were their guys. Those were AV's guys. And again, it gives the illusion to young men who otherwise will be groypers, who otherwise will look at our movement and say, I need to be baptized and confirmed in the Catholic Church, and I need to be a part of Christ's mystical body because that is how I will be saved. It turns their eyes away and says, no, Protestants built America, guys. The Catholics, the groyper Catholics, they're trying to blind me from that. They're trying to make me follow Pope who say gay okay. Which Pope Francis didn't say that, of course, right? That's what they're trying to do. And it is all the handiwork of their donors. Yoram Harzoni, in his book, Virtue of Nationalism, spends literally an entire chapter of it. And I remember this because even when I was Protestant in high school, I remember reading the book and being kind of weirded out why he devoted so much time to attacking the Catholic Church. But he literally spends the book saying, listen, Catholic Church has been against nationalism. You don't want to be for the Catholic Church. They were the first globalist organization, weren't they? Oh, you don't want to be Catholic. That's like the evil, mean, liberal globalists we're trying to fight against, right? So don't become Catholic. Don't look into Catholicism. Don't be saved. This is the spirit of anti-logos that guides this organization, that guided that organization. And I'm so glad it fell. Fat L from American Virtue. American Virtue in the garbage. But the reason I bring up this now defunct organization is John threw his full support behind him. It was John Doyle and American Virtue versus groypers. And the guys who wised up and were Catholic enough, because Endernax is a real Catholic. He's a faithful Catholic man. He left. He was like, I'm gone. I'm not going to be in this organization anymore. I thought we were trying to do this so that we could just make groyper ideas more palatable to people, not so we could be subverted with dirty hush money and be told we're not going to touch certain issues because it's difficult. You know? Chicago rail fan. Sorry, I thought it said ruffian. Chicago ruffian. Chicago rail fan says, I was ostracized when I engaged with these people for simply professing Catholicism and why it is the only church. I believe it, Chicago rail fan. I completely believe it. Because it's like that is what is our whole issue, our whole conflict with these people. My conflict with John, right? It's that we want Catholicism. We don't want generic Christianity. We want true Christianity. And because we want true Christianity and we want this nation to become Catholic and believe in the risen Lord Jesus Christ, who died for your and my sins, Jesus, who died on the cross so we could be saved, so that he could love us so much that we would be a part of his mystical body, that we would be subsumed into him when we die. Theosis, becoming like God, becoming reconciled with God, no separation anymore. Now you got to shut it down. Shut it down, Goy. Don't talk about the Catholic Church, Goy. Shut up, take your money, take your seat, and be a good little slave and take your hush money. That is my issue. That's my beef. It's not real politics. It's political theater. It's giving you the illusion that you're actually making a change in this country. You're not. And it's the same political device that has kept us in chains and binded on the plantation for so long. Well, you know what? Jesus broke my chains. He broke my chains and he tore me off of that plantation. He took me off that plantation and now I'm a part of his body, and so are you. So is every single one of you in chat right now watching this. He broke my chains. I'm not imprisoned by them anymore, and neither are you. But this is what John wants us to return to. Back to the plantation, boy. Hey, boy, carry that water. Don't talk about the Catholic Church. Don't try and convert this country. Take your hush money, take your good, dirty money, and shut the hell up. Because we don't want you talking about salvation. We don't want you talking about men being saved. We don't want you talking about Jesus Christ. You do that, and you're off that plantation. You're free. Your mind is free. You're no longer a slave. So that's my issue. Ranting aside, we will continue.
Tendency to want to almost present paleocon ideas, but without sort of the same tact or fervor that, say, like a Russell Kirk had in saying, neocons confuse the capital of America with like Tel Aviv, or and then maybe he just tried to, not playing up Hitler. Of course, he condemned Hitler's evil, but mentioning that not everyone in the Wehrmacht, right, was evil or what have you. It seemed like we started to be gate-kept, and I think that's a lot of the issues that I've had with American virtue or sort of adjacent people to that position is, at what point does it become red-pilling people so we can get further along versus gatekeeping? And what I seem to see a lot of was gatekeeping.
The reason, and no, you're not going to like this, but this does happen to be the case. The reason that Groypers are gatekept is not because there's ideological opposition. I mean, even if you look at the history of gatekeeping in conservatism, it's much less about ideology and much more about status. It's much more about the neoconservative.
That's instant. Hold on. I'm going to let him finish.
Conservative establishment being allowed to exist because it's ultimately ineffective. And so what happens is, when someone comes along and maybe it's, they publish their PhD dissertation on differences in intelligence between races, or they write an article talking about why their children should avoid black neighborhoods or something, it's not necessarily that the ideology is opposed and someone like Bill Buckley purges them. It's more that the leftist overlords are upset by that. And then the neocons are then doing favor, allowing themselves to exist, and then getting rid of those people. So within conservative institutions, I don't know that the gatekeeping is happening because there is some like, you can't talk about this. What tends to be the instance, at least in my experience, is that Groypers tend to be, how you say, a little abrasive in the way that they go about their political networking, and people tend to not respond to that very positively. Like, for example, there have been a lot of shows that people have wanted to get Nick Fuentes on, but when you have 20, 30 Groypers, like in the comments of the producer saying, like, have Nick on, fuck you. Well, then the producer's like, okay, well, fuck you. I'm not going to have your guy on. And that has been not very good. And then, you have cases too where I was able to maybe help out a little bit in, certain programs that I was willing to sort of extend that olive branch. So it was actually the opposite, where, people who were in my position were willing to help get rid of some of that hurdling. But then when we had our personal falling out, then it's like, yeah, fuck you. I'm not going to help you out. And so then now it's like, okay, I'm gatekept. But I think it has much more to do with the personal than it does the political, in terms of who is forming these coalitions, who is being given opportunities, who is being prevented from them. And as I'm sure you're aware, the Groypers are one of the most disliked groups in all of politics.
But I don't necessarily think that being disliked.
You know what's interesting about that? It's not about politics. It's all personal. Not about politics. It's all personal. Not about politics. Definitely not about politics at all. Oh, William Buckley? Oh, dude, he didn't fire, he didn't excommunicate guys like Samuel T. Francis for talking about race. Joseph Sobrin, the faithful Catholic, was not gatekept from, neoconservatism because he talked about Jews. Oh, it was just personal differences. Personal differences, guys. Joseph Sobrin, by the way, this guy walked so we could run. Keep that in mind. This guy took so much heat for us as faithful Catholics who obey the church and talk about the JQ, so literally we could run. We stand on the shoulders of this giant, frankly, and I'm sad that not more people know about this great man. Firing from National Review, right? In 1993, in a column in The Wanderer, which is a really good magazine, The Wanderer is fantastic. It's got deep roots in this country as a faithful Catholic magazine. It actually was made, it originally was called Der Wanderer in German because it was a German Catholic magazine that was actually devoted to writing to German Catholics so they wouldn't join like Masonic organizations and stuff like that, because that was very popular when they would immigrate to America, and these lodges would try and get them to essentially renounce their Catholic faith and like become a Freemason. So a little cool history for you about the history of The Wanderer, but it's a very, even this day, very faithful Catholic magazine. Sobran attacked Buckley for his support of the 1991 Gulf War, which the neocons were trying to use that as a Pearl Harbor type event to have us fight bigger wars for Israel and take down Iraq. And it didn't succeed, right? Already unhappy with Sobran's columns on Israel and anti-Semitism, Buckley was reportedly angered that Sobran had used information from their private conversations and decided to fire him as a senior editor. Buckley said he considered some of Sobran's columns to be, quote, contextually anti-Semitic. By this I mean that if he had been talking, let us say, about lobbying interests of the Arabs or the Chinese, he would not have raised eyebrows as an anti-Arab or an anti-Chinese. In response to his firing, Sobran claimed that Buckley told him to, quote, stop antagonizing the Zionist crowd, and accused him of libel and moral incapacitation. In his own assessment, columnist Noam Podhoretz, what's his background? Is he paleo-neoconservatism? Podhoretz wrote that Sobran's columns were anti-Semitic in themselves and not merely contextually. Wonder what the early life of Norman is. I wonder what influences he might have. You know, definitely no external influences that would, you know, have him be celebrating Joseph Sobran's firing. Definitely none at all. You know, definitely none, right? Jokes write themselves. In 1994, he founded Sobran's The Real News of the Month, a newsletter that was published until 2007. Sobran was named the Constitution Party's vice presidential nominee in 2000, but withdrew later due to scheduling conflicts. So, Doyle is over here claiming that all these paleocons, Pat Buckley, Joseph Sobran, Samuel T. Francis, they were just fired because of personal issues, personal beefs with, William F. Buckley. And William F. Buckley definitely didn't have, any different reason for opposing them. Definitely didn't have any external interest. What a crock of crap, dude. William F. Buckley is the biggest Shabbos Goy that has existed in neoconservatism. He basically has created the Ronald Reagan type culture that we have in the Republican Party. He was completely a part of opting into that culture. And it's so much so that, I've talked about this other magazine before, Triumph magazine, right? His brother-in-law, which I'm trying to remember who founded it, Triumph. We'll read this together. Triumph magazine, right? Faithful Catholic magazine by Brent Bosel Jr. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was the brother-in-law of William F. Buckley, right? Brother-in-law with William F. Of William F. Buckley, not with William F. Buckley. What does that even mean? And then we go on. Let's see here. Let's read this. However, the relationship between Bosel and his brother-in-law, which is William F. Buckley, began to sour. In March 1966, when Buckley wrote a column warning Catholics should not try and seek legislation that would impose on others their belief that abortion is murder, Wow, really faithful Catholic right there. Buckley writing that we shouldn't advocate for pro-life ideas. There's your infiltration right there, guys. Let's completely sacrifice the issue of abortion because we don't want to impose our ideas on other people, right? Boswell wrote a letter to the editors of National Review protesting that the column, quote, reeks of relativism. Mr. Buckley writes in this instance as though he had never heard of the natural law. You know, deep Catholic in Catholic theology, as all you guys know. Buckley was stung by the letter and composed a bitter reply, but decided against sending it. In 1966, Boswell published The Warren Revolution, a scholarly critique of the Supreme Court of the United States under Chief Justice Earl Warren. Despite his relocation to Spain, he literally moved to Spain because Spain was better under Franco. That's pretty based, I'm not going to lie. So he literally moved to Francoist Spain and thought it was like the best thing since sliced bread. That's pretty based. Boswell remained conscious of U.S. politics. He opposed the Nixon administration, writing in triumph that in supporting Nixon's candidacy in 1968, the conservative movement had, quote, ceased to be an important political force in America. Buckley later changed his mind and agreed with Boswell on this subject, right? And Boswell was such a faithful Catholic. This is one a summary of his position by Buckley himself. Boswell's thesis is now that the Republic of the Founding Fathers was doomed because of their failure to adequately enthrall the city of man to the city of God. That is literally our Catholic critique of the founding. The Founding Fathers were not Catholic. This nation was set up to fail because they did not have the Catholic faith, because they did not have the true faith. And so Buckley was so shameless, was such a shameless grifter. He basically went after his own brother-in-law, someone of his own family, who became a part of his family just to serve who we all know was puppeting him, right? All know who was really pulling the strings of William F. Buckley. Imagine throwing your fellow Catholics under the bus. Imagine throwing your fellow Catholics under the bus to support the synagogue. Isn't it funny how history repeats itself? Right? Isn't it funny how history repeats itself? Pulling something up for you guys. William F. Buckley, Joseph Sobran, oh my goodness, not Patrick Casey. Why am I blanking on his name? Pat Buchanan. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Pat Buchanan, Joseph Sobran, Samuel T. Francis, right here. Right here. Right? William F. Buckley, Pat Buchanan, Joseph Sobran, Samuel T. Francis. Isn't it funny how history repeats itself? A fellow Catholic, a fellow brother in Christ, throwing his brother in Christ under the bus because he's puppeted by Jewish interests. Isn't that funny how history just seems to always wind back the clock and repeat itself? Nick is all the hopes, the dreams, and the desires of all these men who came before. He is the great man of history. As trying to think of his name, Thomas Carlyle, right, would write that great men make history. For our era, that man is Nicholas J. Fuentes. It's not John Doyle. I'm going to tell you that right now. John, I put out one video every 3 months, Doyle. This is a guy who's been canceled. This is a guy who's been thrown under the bus by all the conservative establishment just for one thing, and that's for standing up for our Lord Jesus Christ and his mother Mary. Been thrown under the entire bus because of that one reason. That is ultimately what it boils down to. Yes, America first and placing America first, but why does Nick place America first? It's because of those two people, Jesus Christ, God himself, and his mother Mary. Nick wants to see Jesus be king of America and Mary be queen of America. Doyle wants us to have William F. Buckley Part 2, but with some conservative-ish or paleocon talking points kind of shoehorned in there, just to satiate the Overton window moving further right. But he's okay so long as we don't talk about Jews. We continue to blame all the problems in the world on because of like race or whatever, but in this like BAP, Bronze Age pervert type way. And that's what it boils down to. So let's continue.
Is necessarily a sign of invalidation. You know, I mean, our Lord, right, and the apostles were disliked in the Roman Empire, managed to convert all of Rome, right?
Yeah.
And most certainly it is important to make alliances. I don't want to dismiss that. But, I think Nick has really been doing that with, people like Cheezer, Fresh and Fit. And albeit, I know people will instantly be like, oh, Fresh and Fit, they're not Catholic, or, these guys aren't Catholic. But I think what he has had the appeal really sort of with Gen Z is inserting himself in spaces where his name gets forwarded around. And people then start to consider ideas like, man, like my life does have meaning more than maybe just like crushing a kegger, right, every Friday with my bros. Maybe my life has more meaning to it than just watching sort of streamers who only make kick content by like, trolling people or pranking people like Jack Dotery or whatever. And I have personally talked, I know this is anecdotal evidence, of course, and you can perfectly dismiss it. But I've talked to at least 10 Groypers who I know are currently entering seminary. I know one who currently actually went to Clear Creek Abbey and is going to become a monk and become a priest and make that kind of influence. And so I think while I can understand maybe the point of making alliances, not wanting to be abrasive or what have you, it's kind of a chicken before the egg question of, is it necessarily that abrasion always happens because of a need to be mean to anybody or a need to be rude to anybody? Or is it sometimes because, this might sound a little harsh, but sometimes some fat needs to be cut away a little bit?
Sure. I think that's like a lot of the ability of people to be influential comes through like getting on those platforms, like you mentioned. And the reason that, like, for example, someone I saw in the comments were like, infiltration doesn't work. The paradigm shifted because Candace Owens talked about Jews. Candace Owens worked her way up the ladder. I mean, she started in one position. She was at PragerU for a while. She was at Charlie Kirk. I mean, Charlie Kirk is now like based on all the issues. This is a guy who, again, kind of worked his way up the ladder. Do I believe that they were doing so necessarily like planning on, okay, I'm going to become powerful and then I'm going to jump out and be like, hey, I'm based. Maybe there's a little bit of late blooming there and getting red pilled, because I agree, it takes different people, different amounts of time. But I think basically the disagreement is still just sort of like, how are you going to go about building those relationships, building those alliances, things of that nature? And what I see is even when Groypers, for example, get involved in politics, I notice all of a sudden, when they're not on their Anon accounts, and I'm not counter-signaling being anonymous, by the way. I myself have Anon accounts, which, by the way, a lot of Groypers follow. So even if you hate this, John Doyle, I think it is true that you tend to kind of put a lot of that away, and you start to realize how politics actually works, and you present yourself in a much more pragmatic way. So I still, to be honest, I don't understand the misalignment between what we're saying.
Well,
once you start to understand how politics actually works, guys, you want to see, according to John Doyle, how politics actually works? Once you start to understand how politics actually works, right? It's all about those dollar bills, right? No, who cares if America gets, completely ethnically replaced? Who cares? I'm getting my money. I've got the conservative podcast on the Blaze. That's okay. I'm making videos about Disney princess movies. That's all right. I'm getting money. I'm getting paid. Hey, I don't want to get ousted from the conservative movement, right? Just got to wait for payday. Just say the line, look in the camera, smile in the camera, and just say the line, Don't talk about what's really going on. Don't talk about how they hate your religion and, want your churches to be burned down and, abortion is an affront against their religion and stuff like that. Don't talk, or quite the opposite, banning abortions an affront against their religion. Don't talk about that. Just smile and wave and let everybody know that you're the real opposition, even though you do exactly what they say and you're their little minstrel boy, right? You're up on stage, you're dancing for them. Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? You're being a good little goy. Unbelievable. But that's who we're talking about here, right? That's who we're talking about. Get the money, get the girls, get the popularity. But don't talk about Jews. Don't talk about Jewish power. That's too offensive, guys. That's too out there. That's too radical. Don't talk about that. Shut it down at the source. We don't want to go there. We don't want to talk about what's actually going on because that's not popular. That's not going to jive with our audience. I appreciate John letting me on. I'm not trying to, I wasn't being insincere and trying to be polite to him. But the reason I'm getting so pissed off rewatching this clip is it is totally a smile and wave. Don't talk about what's going on. Don't talk about any of the issues that are actually affecting us. That's not popular. That's not politically effective. Double take and sleight of hand. That as long as it has a smile, we're all goodwill, guys, right? I got frustrated during this conversation. Because, John thinks he is infiltrating. He thinks he's being the big brain, 140 IQ, infiltrating, playing 4D chess. He's making moves that you can't even see. And it's like, what difference has he really made? He's made some difference. I'll give him that. He's made more of a difference than I have. I'm a little streamer, right? I don't do much. But he rides on the coattails of things he used to make. How many times do we need to hear about the 3-year-old porn video he made? And everyone in that Twitter space where he disavowed Nick was just glazing him for that. Oh, my goodness, John, you single-handedly helped me get off porn and stop gooning 24 hours a day because you made that one video. What? Let's check the date on it. Let us check the date. Guys, John completely changed politics because he made a video about porno. He made a video about how I should stop, gooning 24 hours a day 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And just magically, well, howdy doodah, soldier, you've done all you need to do. No one can ever criticize you. You've put in your brass tacks. You made a video telling guys literally what they all know. Okay, let's be honest. This video wasn't a truth bomb. There's a million videos like it on YouTube. Probably even with more views. But we never stop hearing about his audience glazing him about a 3-year-old video he's made just basically telling them, hey guys, stop gooning. Stop doing that all the time. And then what's after that? Just like, you know, react to Pride Month, like generic kind of normie-con content. How is he going to just continue to ride the coattails of when he was like actually doing stuff? You can't do that forever, dude. You cannot continue to ride on a legacy that you built 3 years ago and you haven't really developed anytime since. That's been half of our criticism of you. There has been no progression. And really the only progression that there's been has been like a reversion into the whole Bapsphere thing. Into the whole like neo-reactionary Bapsphere, you know, I'll maybe talk about race and be a little bit more hardcore on race and those kinds of issues. But again, I'm still not going to touch the Talmud. I'm still not going to, you know, touch who's creating all these problems, right? That's how it is. So I will continue to play the clip. I can hear it. I just really got to use the restroom. I am like, I am feeling like I'm being squeezed like a lemon. So I can hear the clip from where I'm at. I'm just going to continue to play it for you guys.
I think the misalignment is, you know, Nick. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm pretty rapidly loyal to Nick, and the reason I am is not because I'm some blind cultist. You know, I don't put him above God. Of course, I would never take anyone to offend God or beat over God's will by any means. But you know, he did a lot in my life. I mean, when I was a Anglican, when I wasn't even a part of the Catholic Church, you know, it was really Nick's influence that helped me become Catholic. And this whole life that I've made, where, you know, one of my friends in chat, Pine Aesthetic, he's one of my best friends now. I would have never met him if I had not become a Catholic apologist. And I would have never become a Catholic apologist had I not become Catholic. And I would have never become Catholic had it not been through the cultural influence of someone like Nick. So, you know, sometimes I understand that some might find Nick's rhetoric to be abrasive. I understand that some might not find him to be sort of the cup of tea, but I think really he represents the cry of a generation. You know, he gave that a stream a long time ago. I'm not sure if you remember this stream. It's been a long time. It's been like years, but there was that stream where he was reviewing the Nick Fuentes iceberg made by Michael Alberto. And I'll never forget this monologue as long as I live. He said, you know, when I see you guys and you fly out, you take pictures with me and you sit down with me, I see me in you. And that right there really sealed the deal for me, because this is someone who cares about me. This is someone who wants to see me succeed. This is someone who, I, as a young white man, have been disenfranchised. I've not had a voice. I've had everyone tell me that, you know, I'm gross, I'm disgusting, I'm the cause of all the world's problems. And to have someone just for the first time be like, yo, like, isn't it kind of whack that guys are thrown under the bus by women and stuff like that? Which I will appreciate on your Pints of Aquinas, you know, appearance. You did, you know, say like women do tend to kind of tone police a lot of, you know, these spaces and stuff like that. Not because we hate women, we love women, right? I love my mom, they're the light of my life. But I think like him being able to say all the things and the entire cry and voice of a generation all through his voice has really been why maybe there's been this animosity. And I'll be honest with you, John, it broke my heart when you guys had to split, because you did have also influence on me too. I mean, I don't know how I would have gotten further along on the right had it not been for your videos and kind of challenging the, I think, narrative of, you know, hey, this kind of neoconservative stuff is a little whack, right? Like, you know, pornography should not be from the First Amendment, right? That doesn't make, like, it's counterintuitive, right? And so I think it was more heartbreaking for me to see the split, because I think really in this fight, you know, Nick is carrying on the voice of a generation, and I want to be with him, and I hope we can all be with them, you know?
I wish you the best of luck with that. I'm glad that you could have had a positive impact because of these, you know, these influencers, these political figures. This is sort of the point of the discussion where there are personal details that, you know, we're not going to air out dirty laundry and everything, even though, you know, that's what that group likes to do about me or whatever. I'll turn the other cheek, right? But I think that, you know, I want everyone to be successful. You know, I don't have a beef with anybody. People have a beef with me. And so, yeah, insofar as these ideas can become more popularized, of course, I'm in support of that. I guess we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess we'll see. And I appreciate for you having me on, John. Thank you for talking with me. I hope this was an enlightening discussion. I'm glad, I wanted to respect your platform and stuff like that for having me on. So thank you for allowing me to speak, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we saw that Pine Sap was in chat, and I thought, well, you just got to cue him in, because now too, I think that, I mean, not to glaze you or whatever the chat is saying, but I mean, who's gonna outdo this guy? So maybe I can go to bed now, right? Maybe I can get some sleep here. But yeah, man, well, good to talk to you. Glad that glad I'm considering us. This is our handshake. I don't want to have any animosity between. I mean, I know we never officially spoke or anything, but
no, of course. I've definitely said some things about you. I made a video and stuff like that. I've been hard.
Wait, what?
Yeah, yeah. I did review your Pints of the Aquinas appearance and stuff like that. I was maybe a little harsh. I definitely have a tendency to, I think, be very.
I didn't even see that. Okay, now I'm gonna kill my. Wow.
Yeah, but
I take it back. Burn the ships. Burn the flag. No, total war.
I understand, but
and then it ends there because he ran out of battery on his phone and stuff like that. So that's the full appearance, right? And I do appreciate him letting me on. I do appreciate his cordial conduct. That was authentically how I wanted to act on my end too. And some people are like, well, why weren't you more harsh or whatever? Well, there's two reasons. Generally, I'm not very good at confrontation. I don't like to be very confrontational with people. It's just not my style. So that's one, And I think Wurzel Root is right that sometimes I can definitely be too nice. That is something that I suffer from. So I can be too nice, but at the same time, I was also kind of trying to play my hand in such a way where I didn't want to be super abrasive to the point where I got kicked off the Instagram Live and we didn't get to have this conversation. But what this reveals to me, what this whole conversation revealed to me, was essentially John is okay with remaining silent about an issue that he knows is an issue. I mean, John's not a dumb guy. John is pretty smart. He knows this is an issue, but he doesn't want to touch it. And I think the real reason he doesn't want to touch it is because of the stigma, the lack of power that comes from touching the Jewish question. And again, I would not have a problem if he didn't touch it, but he didn't get in the way of people who do. But when you actively counter signal and set yourself against people who do, you become a fifth column to the right wing. You become a fifth column to everything that we're trying to do. And that was my fundamental problem with Doyle. I don't expect every person in politics to necessarily be talking about the JQ all the time. I get it. You got to put food on the table somehow. I get not everyone can kind of take that heat. I totally understand. But if you're stepping on the toes of people who do, you're an active enemy. You have gone from being a neutral party who is letting us do what we need to do in talking about these issues to an active enemy. And that's what he became. So that was my issue. And you guys probably saw me smiling. It was because Nick Gers said in chat, Doyle red-pilled me on Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Now I only goon 1 hour a day instead of 2. So true, dude. I used to beat my wampus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But when I saw John Doyle's video about how bad corn is, how bad pornography is, now I only beat my wampus 12 hours a day. I would have never gotten to that point had I not watched a 3-year-old video that he's been running on fumes on ever since. Had I not seen that, I would still be 24/7 sap, still be beating the old wampus. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing around. But in all seriousness, it's like this guy, with all due respect, is not a serious threat to anyone in power. He is a marketable product of the political right. He's marketable. he gives you, all of his followers and fans have the illusion that he's like this fifth column to the left's power, that he's gonna, or not fifth column, that he's this threat to the left's power. He's red pilling an entire generation or what have you. And don't get me wrong, he still gets pretty good views on his videos, but he doesn't present like a real, actual sort of threat to our enemies. And not a threat in a violent way, but a political threat. They aren't scared of John Doyle. The administration is not scared of John Doyle. When they see John Doyle, they think this is a sort of little further right, TPUSA, marketable type conservative who is going to manage to still allow us to do what we want, and he's not going to pose a real threat, and he's going to give his audience the illusion of posing a threat. And that's what it is. Nick said it in chat right now. Sam's Club, Nick Fuentes. Costco, Nick Fuentes. Hey, Mom, can we have Nick Fuentes? Oh, but sweetie, we have Nick Fuentes at home. Nick Fuentes at home. And so that's our issue. And I was serious. I mean, when he was collabing with, or at least amiable towards Nick, I did see the value in him having videos that were maybe more of a stepping stone for people who were center right to then going to our position. But now that he is in bed with people who hate Groypers and oppose us and actively oppose us, right? Even though he said, oh, I'm okay with you guys thriving, I don't think you are, though. I don't think you are based on your actions and based on you basically disavowing us and throwing us under the bus. Now he just represents sort of a false opposition. 1 year ago, angry and clueless feminists at Women's March 2023. This is like 2017 type content. This is like SJW cringe compilation. You know what? 2016. Leftists losing their crap, guys. 5 years ago, anti-SJW cringe compilation, meltdown compilation 3 years ago. Dude, 7 years ago, feminist cringe edition. Like, this content is old and stale, and the reason, there's two things with that. The reason he is putting out this old and stale content is, number one, it's easy. People have done it before. You don't really need to think a whole lot if you're just reinventing the wheel. And it's safe. There's no real opposition to anyone in power if you're just like, yeah, feminists bad. Feminists cringe and stupid, and they have short haircuts and bull nose piercings. I mean, legit, lefties make fun of this kind of stuff because they're like, it's so kitschy and cliche at this point. They almost have like ironically embraced it at this point. Because they're like, yeah, it's safe, it's kitschy. You know, they make jokes where they'll do like the TikToks. And I even laugh at these TikToks too now, where they're like, you want my gun? You want my firearm? Come take it from me, liberal. Put those soft, weak, girlish hands all over my body. Come take my rifle from me. And we laugh and think that's funny. You know, this like weird sort of like I don't even know how to say it. Like this weird sussy TikTok about like liberals bad. Put those soft, weak, girlish hands all over me. You know, that kind of like funny bit, because it has become such a cliche trope on the right to make videos like that. It's become cliche, and that's why we kind of laugh at it, because it's like it just fits in that box, right? If you're further right and you're further right wing and you're like into the really intense ideas like civilization, like we have abandoned the city of God and that's why everything is failing. We need a theocratic type government. They can't make fun of that because it's a real threat. It's the difference between like making fun of, you know, a scared little animal who you can put a costume on, and then like a 1 ton or like a 600-pound bear, you know, 700-pound polar bear about ready to rip your head off, right? Not because we're going to hurt anybody. I don't mean it that way. But what I mean is that we are a threat. They can't really make fun of us in any serious way because we are an actual threat to their power. We actually pose a real threat to the left's control over this country. This guy doesn't. Even the thumbnail alone might as well be a meme. That's how goofy it is. Changed my mind. It's 11 months ago. Still doing changed my mind type content. It's unbelievable, dude. And it's like, if this is kind of the content that we have to do to put up with on the right, we would never win in a million years. This might be fine for people who, I don't know, like, are still a part of Turning Point USA and still support everything they got going on. And maybe this is like a good way of getting them at least a little further right. But for anyone who is done with this, like, cold cereal type diet, that is done with this like stale bread type content, it's such a low energy movement. It's such a low energy opposition to everyone that opposes us. When liberals like openly brag and they're like, the reason I support, they'll openly say this. I mean, that clip I sent of that woman the other day, saying how she loves abortion. She's not even saying, oh, abortion, we support it, but it's better if it doesn't happen. No, she's openly bragging about what we all knew. She loves it. She's bragging about it. She looks in the camera with her demonic eyes and says, I love this horrible thing, and brags about killing children. Those are who we're up against, by the way. Those are the people casting their ballots. Those are the people you see at these town hall meetings, and they can make someone lose their job for a tweet that they put out 5 years ago. Those are the people who are controlling our country. But whoa, dude, Wojak. Wojak content. Oh, funny laughing emoji. Oh, haha. 5 implicitly right-wing Halloween movies. Is that going to oppose the baby killers? Is that going to oppose the people that say, yeah, when the right says we worship Satan, that's absolutely correct, and we do, and what are you going to do about it? No. They look at this and they laugh. They laugh right in your face because they know you are never going to change this country. Even if you get your guy elected, he's going to do absolutely nothing. He's going to uphold the Constitution and their constitutional right, by the way, to openly blaspheme our Lord in the street and continue to advocate killing children and continuing to, push society further and further into the void. And we'll be right back at square one, won't we? It's almost as if we didn't do anything at that point. How many articles were written when Nick Fuentes returned to Twitter? Let's look him up right now. I'm all for that. Forbes. The Hill. Elon Musk to reinstate X account of white nationalist Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes to rejoin X and quickly picks fight with ADL. Musk says he'll reinstate Nick Fuentes' X account. Let's look up John Doyle articles. Oh, wow. Nothing in the article section. You don't even see anything. Oh, John Doyle. Oh, wait, that John Doyle, man convicted in 1987 homicide. Where's John Doyle at? You guys see him anywhere? Wow, I don't see a single don't see a single picture of John Doyle there. Nick again. Elon Musk because of Nick. Elon Musk and Nick. Nick again on the New Republic. You starting to see the picture? Who are they scared of? Are they scared of someone who does not have a single article written about him? Not a single hit piece, not a single, this guy is a real credible threat to our political power, and we need to do everything to silence him, to cancel him, to get him off social media. No. Articles about other people named John Doyle who don't even have a YouTube. We even could go to the images section. He is not in the even first results. It's this random guy. And then it's a video not from John Doyle, but about John Doyle. John Doyle hates capitalism, probably some bread tuber, right? That should tell you right there who is making the difference in right-wing politics. It's not John with his strategy of infiltrating. John, you've been on the internet and doing this stuff for since 2017? That's about 7 to 8 years now. 7 to 8 years John Doyle has been doing this. And what kind of impact has he made? He's been doing this for 8 years, 7 years, and he doesn't even have an article written about him. Nick, in that same time, is on the front page of every major publication on the internet that your parents read. I remember my mom was listening to that podcast with that one. It's really Armchair Expert. My mom was listening to Armchair Expert the other day, and on a random video or random clip of Armchair Expert on Spotify, I hear the name Nick Fuentes drop. Never heard that from John Doyle. Never heard that about John Doyle on any podcast or anything like that. Never heard his name dropped. So that right there should tell you everything you need to know about so-called infiltration. This plan of infiltration is political irrelevancy. These people in this circle don't get any views. They're not known outside of niche Discord, politics circles on Discord on Instagram. Wow, really making a big impact there, aren't we, big guy? We're making a massive impact. Making a massive impact. I can't even find David Carlson's YouTube. Massive impact. It looks like he probably took down all his videos. I'm not surprised. He's just getting raked over the coals. Had 100 views, and it was all groypers, right? These guys who I have to scroll down from 10 results to find his YouTube channel, these are the guys who say that groypers are not politically effective. This is your guy right here. This is your guy right here. Nick can go live at 2 a.m. and have thousands of people watching him, right? John Doyle puts out a video every month for 30 minutes, and it's the same reheated garbage he's been saying for the past 7 years. Not really a whole lot's changed. That's what we're dealing with here. And so that fundamentally, to button up to our original point of this whole recap reaction, that's why I have a problem with John Doyle. He said, Pine Sap, I think we agree more than disagree. We agree more than disagree. Well, that's great. But here's what we don't agree on. You're not willing to talk about any of the issues that are actually affecting us. Your political relevancy isn't there because you're not talking about what actually matters. You want to keep up the safe debate club kid shtick that you've been doing for 7 years now. And that's never going to influence politics, my friend. In fact, people could forgive it back then because you were in high school, early college, but now that you're an adult, it comes off as stale and immature. It comes off like either you're doing this because you're too lazy to progress with your ideas and do further research and be more relevant, or you're just wanting to be dishonest and not wanting to really talk about, again, issues of Jewish power, issues with them attacking the Catholic Church, the relevance of Catholicism in the political culture of America. So that's why we disagree. That's why I have an issue with you. It's not just beef for random reason. I try my best to not just go after people for random reasons. It's because you are actively not aiding us in any way. And when you were, you gave that up when you disavowed us and threw us under the bus. So that ultimately is why I am frustrated rewatching that clip. He dodges questions. He tries to shift the conversation that's just generic. Well, we have to infiltrate. We have to do all that stuff. I don't see the fruits of your infiltration, big guy. Is it going to be 20 years later when this country is already half destroyed that we're finally going to hear an article about John Doyle? Is it going to be 20 years later? Is it going to be 40 years later when I'm like an old, got hemorrhoids in my butt and stuff like that, old boomer? And then I'm finally going to hear the name John Doyle be brought up in politics. That's when I'm going to hear that. Some infiltration, that is. So that's my overall point. You got to be willing to talk about these issues, and you got to be willing to be honest, because it is no time like the present to be willing to talk about the Jewish question, Jewish power, and the political relevancy and position that the Catholic Church places us in. If you're not talking about that, you're not serious about politics. I quite literally don't find you to be relevant in any way, shape, or form. I grew up. I put away the things of a child. That was me in 2016. This is me now. And this is you guys now. So that's where I'm at with all of that guy's kind of content, right? And I was maybe tempted to watch his most recent video, but to be honest, I don't really know if I can sit through that. I mean, let me know what you guys think. If you want me to react to his most recent video, I feel like I've made all the points I wanted to make essentially about his role in politics and his sort of, position in politics. But it's like, what else is there to say? I mean, people kind of boiled it down. Someone said it earlier, but he's like, why are we even talking about John Doyle? He's not relevant. And to be honest, that really does sum up everything. He's just not a relevant guy anymore. He's not a relevant guy. He's not making any changes in politics. And so he ultimately has this sort of position in the political arena where he's just not changing anything. So I think that about sums it up pretty perfectly. So I'm trying to think what else would be good for content or what else we could talk about or watch. Let me know in chat if you guys have any suggestions of anything you want to talk about or anything like that. Because I've kind of, I've made my point about Doyle at this point. Embarrassed to say that Hunter Avalon got me down the pipeline in 2016. Call-ins on Telegram? Yeah, I could maybe do some call-ins. That might be fine. I don't know if I can. Oh, PineSap making me a mod? Yeah, I'll do that, buddy. You're now a moderator, Anglo-Zoomer. There you go, buddy. Now you're a moderator. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing some call-ins. Let me see what we can do here. Actually, I think it should work pretty well. Because my mic is a lot better than it used to be, right? Vatican II for the 40 billionth time. BTW, how's it going, Fine Soup? How's it going, buddy? It's good to see ya. Did John Doyle ever get his Blue Chew sponsorship? No. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that. That's horrible. That will be stained on the recesses of my mind forever now. that will be burned into the recesses of my mind. How could you? Oh man, no, that cracks me up though. Blue Chew. John Doyle on the same tier as Come Down. Oh goodness. John Doyle back in 2019 was like the social conservative alternative to Normie Khan at the time, Hunter Avallone. Yeah, that's a pretty good point, Rule Americana. I mean, that's when he was very relevant, but it's like now he doesn't facilitate that same sort of position in politics. Can you make me a mod on The Narrow Way? Oh, like in the chat? Yeah, I can make you a mod in the chat. I'll do that after the stream's done. But let me see about opening up a call on the main channel. Start live stream. Personal account. Okay, I just started a live stream. Let me hold on. Listener link. We want a listener link. Let me put this in the YouTube chat. If you guys have Telegram, you can call in. And I'm more than happy to have you guys raise hands and just we can talk and stuff like that. Have a good time, you know. Let me pull open. Sorry, I'm arranging stuff right now on my desktop. Okay. So I have both Telegram on right now, and I've got the video on. Let me know if you can hear me on Telegram. And if you guys want to speak, you can totally raise your hands, and I will raise your hands. Anglo Zoomer tipped $50. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. That's great. Oh, sorry. By the way, Bob H had donated $10 earlier. Apologize for that, buddy. Bob H donated $10. Hey, Pine Sap, do you know if there is an archive of Basil's articles in Triumph you were talking about? Also, could you recommend a few of Sam Francis's writings to start with? So, I just closed Brave. Let me pull it back open real quick. So basically with Samuel T. Francis, the main book I've read from him, or I'm currently reading from him, is this one, but he has a couple books. One of the ones that Nick recommended was called Beautiful Losers. That's a really, really good book. But the main one that I've been reading recently has been The Essential Writings on Race. Now it says out of stock. All you need to go is on the American Renaissance, you know, what's his name? Richard Taylor. You just need to go on Richard Taylor's website on the bookstore, American Renaissance's bookstore. You can buy this book. It's like super cheap. It's like $20 or $10. And I think you might have to pay for shipping, but it's not expensive. This is the main one I'm reading right now. I'd highly recommend it. And then I think Leviathan and Its Enemies was released not too long ago. And Beautiful Losers. He has a couple other books in there. Shots Fired, Samuel T. Francis on America's Culture War. And then after that, Triumph Magazine. This is the Brent Bosel collection of writings right here, the best of Triumph. And you're not just going to get Brent Bosel, you're going to get all these faithful Catholics who wrote articles for Triumph, kind of compiled in this one great volume. You can also look up individual issues of Triumph online. I think they're on archive.org actually. But if you want a really, really just good book, it's like $20 right now on Amazon. I have this on my shelf. It's hardcover. It's wonderful. There's a ton of great writings in there. You can also, he also has a biography called Living on Fire. That's a really good one. And then another book called Mustard Seeds. A Conservative Becomes Catholic. And this, I've heard nothing but praise about this book. I probably should buy it pretty soon here. But Mustard Seeds is a really, really good book that kind of talks about like how he became Catholic and that sort of thing. Oh my goodness, dude. This quote goes so hard. Let's just read this real quick and then I'll open up calls. Public life as it now exists is an enormous obstacle to virtue, if not to salvation. It is a fierce agent of Satan. Yet it is meant to provide inducements to virtue and occasions of grace. It is meant to be a place where God is signified in his things. That's what I'm talking about. That's my guy right there, dude. That is my homie right there. But anyhow, Let us get to those call-ins. Can you guys raise your hands by any means? Let me check if I have the live stream in a weird place to see if you can't raise your hand. If you are in the Narrowway live stream right now, oh shoot. Just raise your hand and I'll unmute. But if you can't, that's all right. Hey Pine, do you watch PaxTube? Just found his channel. He's pretty cool. Yeah, I do watch PaxTube. He's pretty cool in terms of what he talks about. I will say he is anti-Nick, and I don't appreciate that about him, but I do appreciate his videos. His videos are very, very good. Let's see here. Let's see. Let us also pray for the Jews that God, our Lord, would illuminate their hearts so that they will recognize Jesus Christ, the Savior of all men. Amen, brother. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Hashtag restore the pre-1955 Good Friday prayer for the Jews. That's what I'm talking about. My man, this guy knows what he's talking about. Restore the Inquisition. So true. All right. So we got our first caller, Patrick Groiper. Patrick, what's up, buddy?
I've been doing great, Flagstaff. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good, I would say.
The solid. Yeah, I've been kind of I've been like spamming in like the chat of the last streams, like calling stream, it's finally calling stream, and then have nothing to say. I don't know. Like, I guess one thing I can say, rest in peace to Constitution Legionary over here in the chat.
No, he's a good guy. I just was like, I was like, let's not be saying TMI stuff. You know, I mean, that's a basic thing online. Don't overshare things that go on in your life and stuff like that. But we love him. He's a good guy. He's a good guy nonetheless.
Yeah.
But anything up, buddy?
I don't know. I mean, like, I just got my college like ends like really late, so I just got out, so that was nice. Like I watched that Padre Pio movie that I think you shared in your Telegram, and I say like, apart from the Passion of the Christ movie, it's like those are the only two movies that like I actually cried during it. Like I think it was really like a beautiful movie. Did you watch it or did you just like see and then like repost it?
I saw it and I reposted it. I have started it. I just need to watch it all the way through. Actually, you know what? I'll do that today. Because I'm sure my buddies, my best friends, when they get back, probably are going to want to watch a movie in the common area. So let me see if I can recommend that for us to watch. Padre Pio Miracle Worker would be a great movie to watch together. The main clip that I saw from that movie that really struck me was actually an accurate recounting of what Padre Pio actually did. And it was where, one of his spiritual sons comes in and is talking about like the bishop essentially shutting him down because they were skeptical of him, right? They didn't think he was a miracle man. They were worried that he had like a false sort of like cult around him or a cultist around him. And it was taking their focus away from the church and making like a cult, St. Padre Pio. And rather than him like lashing out in anger at the bishop and being like, yeah, he's a horrible man and stuff like that, and, agreeing with his spiritual son who he's like, oh, he, is, lusty towards women and stuff like that. And he gambles and takes money from like the curia. He slaps his spiritual son and he's like, how dare you whoremonger, you gambler, all these things. He's like, depart from me, get out of here, Satan. And the man goes out in the woods and he falls on his knees in the forest and is just crying and upset. And when he goes back, he repents and Padre Pio receives him as his son again, the prodigal son, and hears his confession. And it's one of those, or he said, I already heard your confession, so he absolves him. But it's one of those things where like that scene really changed me, because when I saw it, someone had like sent it to me or I like found it online, but when I saw it, it was when I was kind of coming out of the time and the era in which I was very critical of Pope Francis. And I used to say horrible things about Pope Francis. I was like, he's destroying the church, he's evil, he's all these things. And I remember like watching that clip, and when I was done watching it, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I was in tears, dude. Like I was like Padre Pio was speaking to me in that clip. And it really was like something that like I didn't understand the value and the role of obedience in the church, but that single moment of the movie really illustrated that concept to me, and it really meant a lot.
No, I mean 100%. Like I was feeling like the exact same way. Like I had like I use kind of like that example also, like in that, like, you know, kind of like comparing and saying, like, you know, Padre Pio, like, you know, unjustly persecuted by his bishop. So it's like, you know, like the worst case scenario for Pope Francis, like, oh, you know, he's unjustly persecuting, you know, like faithful Catholics or so on and so forth for like restricting the Latin Mass. And it's like, even that, it's like, you're still like, you're not like, you like Padre Pio, you know, he upheld like the honor and dignity of his bishop. I forget like where I saw this, but I remember like it was somewhere I found that like as Catholics, this was like about not always kind of like defending your reputation, because like if we think about like all the times that like we get away with something that we probably like shouldn't have gotten away with, you know, like a private sin that's not really out in the public, but really if people knew about it, then it would go ahead and lower our reputation severely. And our reputation, because we've done that sin, deserves to be lowered, and yet it's not. And so when kind of like, you know, these like, you know, semi-false accusations come up, or even, you know, false accusations, sometimes it's almost like best to kind of like in humility to like refuse to challenge it, because it's like it's kind of making up for all those transgressions that we kind of let fly under the radar. And it's like a lot like reconnecting our like almost like reordering our reputation back to probably where it should be. I think it's also just something where like it helps also reduce like the idol of reputation. This idea like, oh, I always have to like, you know, like what do people think about me? Like because I think you talked about like the example of like the girl who went to confession and like for like rumor, and she was asked to like go ahead like and cut open like a pillow full of feathers like on top of a building and like air it out and then like get all the feathers again. And just like, you know, realizing that we don't have to, that the only person who's like to whom like our reputation really matters is, well, God. And in that case, like, you know, he's also the only one who, like, unlike the world, will never like hold anything against us permanently. We go to confession, and then it's absolved, and really it is kind of like, you know, we get that same innocence that we did, like, you know, right at birth and at baptism. That it's like we don't have like we're fully restored in our relationship. And so even if, you know, other people are not necessarily willing to like, you know, restore our reputations or look at us highly, it's like, well, if God holds us in high regard, then that's all we need. But in order for God to hold us in high regard, we need to hold him in the highest regard and not chase other like ephemeral qualities about ourselves.
Sorry, I think I have to unmute my mic on Streamlabs too for people to hear us. But yeah, dude, no, I mean, that is so true. And it's been difficult because, you know, when you have a certain reputation, I think in our personal lives, like it's very easy to have a pretty simple reputation with people. You know what I mean? Like maybe our friend group isn't big enough that like we have a ton of people, you know, slandering us or talking bad about us or what have you. If you're online though, you definitely get sort of like focused on yourself a lot. You get focused on your brand or your persona or what have you. And, you know, when people slander you, it really hurts because you sort of see it as like that person trying to take you down or attack you. I mean, I've complained about this before, but like, you know, there's people who've gone after me for a number of things. You know, I've had people say I'm not Catholic because of like the things that I've said about race, or, you know, the way that I talk about, you know, just Gen Z women's behavior or what have you. And I try to not let it affect me, but it definitely hurts a lot. And I feel a temptation to always want to like really rebuke that person, like really be nasty to them, just, you know, drive sort of the wedge in and get back at them and spite them. But, you know, to be honest, like what you shared with me is so true. It's like, instead, you know, I've done things in my own life that definitely, you know, I I think I'm deserving to shoulder that burden of people insulting me, right? And all of us have sort of that responsibility rather than to constantly almost defend our reputation or defend ourselves, given depending on what the circumstances are. We should just sort of shoulder that burden. We should just say, look, I've done so many things that have offended God that I deserve to have people go after me and even talk bad about me if it means that I'm doing this in reparation for my sins. So, dude, I'm so glad you shared that with me. Thank you. I really needed to hear that.
Hey, well, you're welcome, Pi Sap. I think I'll let someone else have it in the call. But thanks for taking the time.
You got it, buddy. Hey, thanks for calling in, Patrick Groiper. Love you, buddy. And I always love your great takes on like theology and stuff like that. You give me a lot of great stuff to reflect on. I think it's always the Holy Spirit just moving in your heart, speaking through you,
Thanks, Pine Sap. Actually, this is kind of something funny. Like I have one of my friends at college I met, like we'd always go ahead and work out together, but like, he would always like forget, like there was a lot of times he would kind of like bail out on the workouts, and I'd always say like I'd forgive him and he wouldn't hold it against him and say like, all right, you want to go to gym, you want to work out tomorrow, and so he goes ahead like, oh, like you're so Christ-like, and it's like I guess that makes up for all the fact that all the times like I don't end up reading my Bible, because he's always like telling me that I need to read my Bible more, and I'm like really bad at reading it. So because it makes up, Well, I keep the spirit of humility, and that's
that's so true. Well, and the thing with Bible reading is it's like any other habit. If you can even just do like that bare absolute minimum like every single day and build that up, that's huge, dude. Like even if you have to start at a crawl, like a snail's pace of like a verse a day, not even a chapter, it's better than if you didn't do that. So maybe that would also, I mean, in addition to, kind of your saintly actions there, maybe start incorporating that into your life. And if you can incorporate that, you're going to be even better and affect even more people than you are already, with your disposition of heart towards God.
Oh, thank you so much, Pine Sap. All right. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let someone else on, but God bless you, Patrick. I'll speak with you later, okay?
Okay.
Let's go, dude. Patrick Groiper, the boy, bro. James, I love you, buddy. I don't know if I really want to hear a lecture though about how I banned you from the chat right now. I'm gonna be real. I love you. I wish you the best, but I think I'm gonna let Anglo speak. I do love you. I do care about you. I wish you nothing but the best, but I'm not looking for that lecture right now. AZ, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing.
Are you there? Sorry.
Today it was great. I had Chick-fil-A.
Oh, let's go.
Were you there? Hello?
Yeah, you timed out just for a moment, but then I heard the Chick-fil-A part.
Oh yeah, that happens. Yeah, I went to confession, then I went and got Chick-fil-A. It was a really good day.
Let's go.
Are you excited?
Dude, I'm so ready for AFPAC because I mean, I had gone to FR2, of course, and that was just awesome. That was my first political event ever. I had never gone to like a TPUSA or like CPAC thing. And it's like to have FR2 times 10 in the setting that is AFPAC, that's going to be so awesome. Like I'm really stoked for that.
Yeah, you and me both, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and hanging out. It's going to be a good time. And yeah, Fuentes Rally 2 was off the rails, and that alone, it's hard to imagine what AFPAC's going to be like after being to FR2. It's going to be like a million times better and bigger than FR2 was, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to meeting you again.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, and what's cool too that I was kind of meditating on is like FR2 was kind of like such a fraction, I think, of like the Groiper population, because it's like this kind of smaller event, sort of this one-off thing, not even during the entire day or whatever. And that most certainly, was still cool because we saw still like hundreds of Groipers there, met hundreds of people. But now it's like, not only are we going to another one of those events, it's going to be thousands of people thousands of our fellow gripers, our fellow Catholics, all in the same place, dude. And I'm like, if FR2 is that cool, just a, couple hundred people, like how much more awesome is AFPAC going to be with like thousands of guys?
Yeah, it was overwhelming to be just at FR2 with the sound and the lighting and the production quality and obviously everybody there. And then if you're looking back at like AFPAC 3, which I unfortunately did not get to go to, that was big. And, if you look at like all the VIPs that were announced, that's another thing. I think there was only like 20 VIPs announced in the lead up to AFPAC 3. I've kept track of all the VIPs that have been announced. We've had 40 VIPs announced.
Wow. Dude,
so this is going to be so many magnitudes bigger.
That is so awesome. And really, I think at that point, I mean, that's already a good indicator of how massive this is going to be. And also the fact, too, there were so many tickets that, like, leading up, I don't even know if they're all sold out currently. Maybe they are. Maybe know about that. But I remember on Twitter, even like on, like, what was it, like Tuesday or Wednesday, them saying that they had 100 tickets left. 100 tickets left, dude. Like, that is a good indicator that this is just going to be massive. Because if they, for essentially an entire month, were continuing to sell tickets or 1 or 2 months at that point, it's a good indicator that, like, this is going to be just huge. It's going to be like CPAC levels of huge. And I can't even begin to imagine like how many people we're going to see and get to talk to. Because, we always, when we're online and we see thousands of people watching Nick, we still feel kind of alone because we're like, okay, I'm on a screen. I'm just seeing, profile pictures and stuff like that. Not really a big deal going on. But when we actually like go there and we're, on the ground floor and we get to see all the people that we've talked to online, that we've networked with, that we've worked with, that we've done all these collabs with and stuff like that, that adds a whole different dimension to just like the friendship that is inherent in this movement.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's all I had to say. It's good talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you this week. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited, bro. I look forward to seeing you this coming weekend.
And I got my rosary. I'm ready to pray it with you and whoever else joins us at AFPAC. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
That's awesome, dude. I can't wait to pray the rosary together with you and all the other guys. And this is a little sneak peek of my fit for AFPAC, but TR hooked me up with some vintage Hugo Boss. So I'm going to have some vintage Hugo Boss.
Oh, let's go.
I just need to get the pants a little tailored, not too bad, just a little tailored, but like it's going to be dripping, dude. I'm excited. So I will.
Yeah, I got an all black suit ready, red tie. It's going to be good.
Let's go, dude. That's going to be awesome. But I will speak with you later, my brother. I'm going to let some other people on, but God bless you, AZ, and I can't wait to see you this coming weekend, man.
Yeah, you too, man.
All right, take it easy, brother. Let's go. Talking to AZ, that's what I'm talking about, dude. AZ is such a good guy. I mean, I can't wait to see him again. We haven't seen each other in forever since West Palm, right? Just this past summer. So it's going to be great to reunite with him and see him in person again. Of course, we've been texting and stuff like that back and forth, but to be able to be in that setting again is going to be really, really fun. I just hope Detroit is like cool. I hope there's not a lot of hot weather because I'm a really temperature sensitive guy, but I run hot. So like I want to be dripping, but I don't want to be drowning in sweat. You know what I'm saying? But we got a bunch of people that are in the call right now. Guys, please feel free. Tap that little mic and raise your hands if you'd like to call in. I'd love to get to speak to you guys. John Paul Jones. What's up, buddy? I think you need to unmute your mic.
Whoopsie daisy. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not used to not used to doing this on Telegram.
Oh, that's okay, man.
Nice to meet you, Pine Sap. I've actually been sort of lurking around for like literally years. I started watching Nick back when he was on RSBN. So I've been around for a while. But yeah, what honestly, I wish I was going to AFPAC. I really do.
Oh, dude, are you
But
not going to be there?
I really wish, but I'm. It's not that I'm short on money, but that I'm just really trying to be frugal right now. I've got a lot of other big things just going on in life right now that I'm saving up for. But I'm telling myself that I've got to go next year or whenever they have another one, because like I've been really active in the political scene just in general. Like I said, I've been following Nick since his RSBN days. I was in the I mean, heck, I cut my teeth in politics volunteering for Ron Paul back in 2012.
Wow.
And so I mean, yeah, I'm a 30-year-old millennial, so you Zoomers are got a bit more. So you Zoomers are honestly, I just love your whole generation. But anyway, but yeah, the what was I gonna say? Yeah, I've been in and out of. I mean, back in I don't know if you remember it back in the early Trump days when there were all these like free speech rallies going around like in Berkeley and stuff like that, and fights were breaking out between like Proud Boys and Antifa and stuff like that.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
organized. I was with people organizing free speech rallies up in Boston, and
Wow.
if you go like Google Boston Free Speech Rally 2017, you'll see like a shit ton of hit pieces that they were writing against the stuff that we were doing. So I was up involved in all of that and shit. But anyway, I've been just floating around from like thing to thing for like the past few years, just being involved in stuff and always trying to basically push the America First message wherever I've been. And but yeah, I've never like tried to like be an influencer or anything out of it. Okay, it's not like I haven't like tried. Like I do have a YouTube channel, but that's mostly just memes and shit. Honestly, I've really wanted to. I've seen the stuff that you and Spexo have been doing, and seeing like the whole like Catholic stuff growing up. I mean, growing up and exploding on like YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that has made me really want to get into like Catholic content, because I mean, that's my own faith life has been like a big part of my own motivation and journey, and but I've never really felt comfortable speaking so much about it publicly because I felt like I had to work on myself. Like I had to like fight a lot of my own demons before I felt good representing the faith. So you guys have been a good inspiration to me in sort of that. And so I guess if I had a question for you is, if since I do already have something of a at least a small like YouTube channel or social media presence, but it's mostly just been on like memes and music and stuff. Do you have any advice on, say, if I were to try to transition over to more Catholic content or Catholic themed content?
That's a great question, my brother. I would say, ironically, I think I was asked this question the other day on Randy's interview, and I'll give the same answer, but right now, really what we need in terms of Catholic apologetics is either two different approaches, and you can really go with either. One is you could continue to be like kind of most Catholic apologists that focus mostly on atheism and Protestantism. Excuse me. And you could just do it better. And what I mean by that is not in an ambiguous sense. Like, for instance, like I think we have not fully fleshed out the TikTok environment when it comes to Catholic content. I think Protestants and even Eastern Orthodox have been better at like using TikTok to sort of speak about Catholic issues and stuff like that. And we've done quite a bit on that platform, but I feel like there could be a lot more done to sort of push people towards Catholicism and inspire people to be Catholic. So, even if you wanted to focus sort of on the main apologetical approaches and topics that most apologists focus on, if you just do it better and in environments where they're kind of underserved by Catholic apologists, you could really make some breakout content. I think Catholic.
Yeah.
Oh, go right ahead.
See, I don't know if the intellectual apologetic side is really where my strong suit is. I've always been like, see, all of my content up till now has been like memes and music and stuff like that, or music videos.
Oh,
so
I
one of the
gotcha.
things that I was thinking. So one of the things that I was thinking of is just sort of like making more of that, but like more Catholic themed.
I agree. I think what you should do, so that actually changes my approach that I'm going to tell you right here. Pope Benedict XVI and Pope Francis have both used this term, and I really, really like it, is the idea of like attracting people to the Catholic faith through beauty. You know, like if you make a really fire edit, if you make an edit that's really, really beautiful, you know, I've said this before, but like the little dark age edits or like after dark edits or the funk edits or the vaporwave edits or you know, those edits, right? We see on TikTok, I share on Telegram and X and Instagram all the time. They have real apologetical value. And if you get really, really, really good at doing them to the point where you're like hyper jumper and you're making these crazy edits that completely like change people's view and perception of the world, you can really do a lot of good work for the church that way. I mean, you can do a ton of good work for the church. And quite frankly, knowing that's now your niche, I would highly encourage you to looking into sort of how to improve your editing. Actually, if your editing's already good, maybe you don't need to improve it. But really, really look to utilize meme culture and sort of, you know, memeology to spread Catholicism through attraction, you know, and if you can improve that and harmonize that and, you know, post those TikTok, you know, memes or reels on Instagram or things on X, you can do a really, really good job for the faith just by attracting people to the beauty of it.
Yeah, I saw Spexo just released his EP, and that got me thinking, dang it, I want to do that.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. I mean, if you've even got good music and stuff like that, man, that could be really, really, really good.
I mean, just to give you a sense of like the stuff I used to do back when like Skyrim was at its heyday, I did an Arrow in the Knee Machinima music video that got like over 1 million views. So that was a thing.
Okay, so you're an editor then. You can definitely do some damage then, bro. And
yeah,
if you even want to send me your stuff to juice it, I will totally juice it for you, man. That's no problem. I love getting to send that kind of content and share that kind of content. So if you have anything that you need me to send to other people to juice or anything like that, please feel free to reach out.
I appreciate it. I might send you a DM then.
You got it, brother. That sounds great. Did you have any other questions off the top of your head, or was that about it?
That was the main one, and you pretty much affirmed the sort of direction that I was already thinking, but yeah, that was helpful.
Let's go, dude. Well, please, by all means, send me that music, send me those memes. I will definitely help juice those, and any accounts that you have, I'll totally credit those and stuff like that when I send that stuff out or share that stuff. So please share everything that you want me to send out, okay?
Yeah, appreciate it.
God bless you, John Paul Jones. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
Well, you too.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. John Paul Jones, man. This dude, he's an awesome guy. Oh, it's my boy Marco. Marco, what's up, buddy? I think you need to unmute, big guy.
You hear? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hey, what's up, big dog? Just to reinforce what John Paul Jones was saying, you Zoomers are pretty cool.
Wait, you're a Zoomer, right?
No, I remember 9/11. I am indeed not a Zoomer.
Dude, okay, wait. Do you remember 9/11 like you were 1 year? Because I was like, I was like only a couple months old when 9/11 happened. Were you like in preschool or something?
Nah, bro. It's one of my earlier memories. What is this? A conference. Oh, sort of. Sorry. It was one of my earlier memories. I was sitting on the couch at my house while my mom was watching it. And the reason why I remember it is because I had a personal stake in the matter.
Wow.
So, yeah, the qualifying thing, as we all know, that is in the public lexicon, is if you don't remember 9/11, you're a Zoomer. And if you do, you're a millennial, right? So
that's true.
With that being said, yes, I do remember quite vividly, actually. So you guys are pretty cool. With that being said,
well, dude, that's awesome. Hey, if anyone who's a base millennial, it literally is like Doom Guy trying to fight off all these like demons and stuff like that. I mean, you guys were bluntly put in like one of the worst generations. And so when you're based, you're like super based. You're literally like the Doom Guy of being right wing and Catholic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like at the Texas State Convention, people were like, "Oh, we love young people." All the old people were like surrounding me like I was some like hot commodity. Like, we need young people. Oh, you should run for office. And I have like several powerful people who have like come up to me and like told me like, hey, if you run, I have several people that'll support you, this, and that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I mean, come on, like,
You're like,
it's only because I'm young. And if they were to hear any of my opinions on Israel, I'm sure they wouldn't be saying the same thing.
you get up on stage and they're like, oh, this young guy, he's gonna give us like liberal ideas, and you're like, our people have been tormented and treated like dirt for too long. And you start like, your hair is cuffed down a little bit. You're like throwing your hands. It's like the beer hall push. They're like, what kind of guy did we hire on?
Oh, that'd be fantastic, man.
Dude, that'd be crazy.
But no, one of the best things that, and I actually got in touch with the Zoomers that were there with me. And I hung out with them, and all of them, all the young people that I was with were anti-Israel, and it was beautiful.
Let's go.
We ducked out during lunch during the convention to go eat at Chipotle. And as we were there at Chipotle, it was nothing but, man, I hate immigrants, especially Haitians, and man, do I not like Israel.
Dang, dude. So it literally, like, our ideas have just taken over at this point. Is what I'm
it's so
hearing.
true. It's so true. There are many such cases.
Well, and I think
it is.
Oh, go right ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Go ahead. You finish.
Oh, I just was gonna say, I just think because it's like we're cool. Like our ideas, because our ideas are true, they're cool. You know what I mean? Because like, I think nowadays when people see like, I mean, if you go on like Turning Point USA's like Instagram page or whatever, it's just lame. Like, it's like not cool. It's not like hip. It's not like edgy, you know?
And consumer friendly, sponsor friendly. It's like there's no like underground element. Like you're supporting like an establishment opinion.
Legit.
When you do that. But if you're like this group, then you're not supporting the establishment opinion. You're actually supporting the base and true opinion.
Well, and I'll be blunt, like, when we become the establishment, like, we'll still be cool because it'll be like authoritarian. It'll be like the Empire or something. You know what I mean? It's like, we'll be like Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers. We won't be like, you know, Mr. Low taxes, and we'll make sure that you have plenty of guns and pot in your pot farm.
We need to deport all the illegals, you know.
Legit.
So on and so forth.
Legit.
But
It'll be. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to bring up is I was on one of the RZ Discord offshoots, and we were talking about, and I red pilled so many people on the different IQs stratifying across the different races, meaning that we have different genes pill. And the conclusion that we got at the end of the conversation, I had another Catholic guy in there, an Eastern Catholic, who said he wasn't a groyper, but he said he liked a lot of Nick's ideas. He said that he was on board with pretty much all of it, but the unfortunate result is like how do we as Catholics go about with this information? And the question was raised by a really great Catholic friend of mine. Assuming all of this is true, how do we go about telling the people that we love through charity about these things? And I didn't have an answer for him. I couldn't tell him. Like these things are hard topics to talk about because people always want to bring up, you know, like that scene from Django Unchained where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is talking about the black brain and how parts that are related to like submissivity are much smaller in that brain than the white man's brain, who has bigger parts associated with like inquiry and exploration. And that makes people uncomfortable because those ideas were used to justify slavery, you know? So like he really wanted to know, like, if I want to tell other good Catholics this information, how do I go about doing that? And I really did not have an answer for him. So what would you say to that?
I mean, the biggest thing I would say is that from the premises of talking about differences in like IQ or traits or what have you amongst races doesn't take away the dignity of a human being. We know that all human beings have a rational soul And we know that all of those souls are created equally and in the equal dignity and love of God. And all races are created in the image of God and with equal dignity. No race is better or worse than another, of course, right? That's established church teaching. What we could say is that, differences that happen amongst, I always like to use the family as an analogy for races, because really, what is a race except a larger extension of family? In a family, for instance, the Gundersons versus the Smiths, right? The Smiths, their sons might be better at like football or hockey, and the Gundersons family, right? Their sons might be better at math or science, right? Now, just because they're better in particular regions or areas of expertise or activity doesn't make the Gunderson sons better than the Smith sons, and it doesn't make the Smith sons better than the Gundersons. It just means they're a little different, but they still are both children made in the image of God who should be treated and entitled to the same dignity and respect as each other. And I think it's the same thing with race, right? It's like, even if there are certain traits of a race that might be better or worse, maybe this race can run faster than another. This race generally on average has a higher IQ or what have you. It doesn't then have to turn into a sort of a supremacist mindset where it says this race is better than another race, right? Because everyone has their traits that might be certain benefits or certain, for lack of a better term, like drawbacks, right? I mean, for instance, like Asian people, on average, have a much higher IQ, but they can't, because of a certain gene that they lack, they can't process alcohol as easier.
That's exactly what I said. That's actually crazy. That, like, the way that I ease people into it is I bring that up. Like, that is my main key point whenever I ease people into it. It's like, well, actually, if you look at Koreans cannot metabolize alcohol the same way, like, say, a Hispanic person can. They can't. Right. It's impossible. They get drunk way faster. So the method that I use is actually pretty close to that. It's something. It's more like discrimination, like as on its face, is not like good or bad. It, like a gun, it is a tool that can be used for good and a tool that can be used for bad. Like for example, if like men are discriminated against in a woman's restroom, we would not want men in women's restroom. That is an example of good discrimination, right? Right. So with this in mind, if you're going out with your Korean friend and he wants to drink and he's having as much as everyone else, it would be a good idea to discriminate alcohol from him in that sense, because you're looking out lovingly and out of charity for your friend.
That's a really good example, actually.
That's how I ease people into it. And then I go into, once I've stopped there, then I bridge into with this in mind, if our livers and organs can be different, then it makes sense that our brains might be as well. And then I get into it with, IQ stratifying across races, blah, 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 so on and so forth.
Right.
But that's one that's really easy. The question part that I was trying to get into was when you're trying to red pill people on this and wake them up to the truth, like, how do you go about doing that? Because the only other guy that was helping me with this said that the only other way is true color blindness, because it creates an unfortunate slippery slope where we might go back to starting to treat people unfairly.
Well, the thing about it is,
I agreed with that.
Well, yeah. I mean, my problem with that kind of argument is, this is like saying, well, we need feminism because if we need feminism, like, women will be beat by their wives again. So, or beat by their wives, beat by their husbands, right? That's a bad argument. Remember
that. Finds that blessed sin right there.
No. It's so over. No. But I mean, I could argue the same thing for, okay, well, feminism is bad, and yeah, feminism did all these horrible things, but hey, well, women were beat back then by their husbands, so feminism implies that that's bad, and so we want less beating. So hey, as bad as feminism is, we need to tolerate it. Now that's complete BS, right? Like domestic violence, I would argue, is not worse back then than it is now. In fact, in a lot of ways, I would almost argue it's worse now, because since men and women no longer feel like they have a duty to each other, they just feel like they can use each other, right? But regardless, it's like, that's a bad argument to say we shouldn't bring up something truthful because of a slippery slope, because that's the left's type thinking, right? Like, don't talk about Jewish power because Holocaust or, Hitler or whatever. Don't talk about, don't talk about like issues over like sexuality because that means you're gonna, like, I don't know, throw gay people off roofs or something, right? That's a really horrible argument to make. Information is information, whether we like it or not. To quote a man we've all heard from before, facts don't care about your feelings, right? And so if we're saying something that's true, we should be able to say it. What we do with that truth is what matters. And just because there's a difference in IQ doesn't mean that a man is more or less human, right? A man's not more or less human just because he has a higher or lower IQ. There's high IQ. I mean, Stephen Hawking has a high IQ, and he's one of the most immoral men that has ever lived. The guy's a pervert. He was on Epstein's island, right? Intelligence doesn't necessarily transfer into virtue. And so, really you could argue it from that standpoint, where intelligence is really just a tool that we use in order to, process information or accomplish a certain task, but it doesn't translate to virtue. We look at the heart ultimately. And so someone is not less human just because they have a lower IQ, because if we were to argue that, well, at what point is the cutoff, right? I mean, is it, is a 20-point difference the difference between someone being more human or less human? Is a 5-point difference the difference between someone being more or less human? And you can sort of argue from that standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's just, in a wider conversation, I can see how that might lead to issues too, because people, I don't want to hold you hostage if someone else wants to talk, but people might like like I said, it's an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. Like even people who might want to be inclined to being on our side, like they don't like talking about this stuff because of the slippery slope they think it might lead them down. Like the whole thing about, a lot more people are saying like first wave feminism caused third wave feminism, therefore first wave feminism bad. Like a lot more people are saying that than they used to, which is a good thing, right? The same thing could intelligently be applied to this line of thinking if you take it to its logical conclusion.
How so? Like saying that, just because people might be harsh about like eugenics or whatever back then, that if we start talking about race and IQ, it would go back to that?
That's what some people would imply. Obviously in the system that we would put in place, the people in charge would be a lot more godly, and therefore we'd be less inclined to go down that path. But they don't understand that when we would bring it up and say, oh, prejudice isn't a sin, but profiling is.
Well, what I would say though is that's within the context of living in an amoral society, right? And if we're living in a Catholic society where the dignity of man is something that's instantly recognized by, all involved in that society, then it would naturally imply that we wouldn't be starting from a presupposition where a man's dignity would be undermined just because we recognize that there's a difference in race and IQ. And I'm not sure actually if he speaks on this, but I think it might be good to read Race Reflections of a Theologian by Father Bonaventure Hinwood, because I'm sure he probably would touch on the elements of, how do we talk about race when certain races might have certain characteristics that, like a higher IQ, or they're faster, or they're this or they're that, or maybe their body's better at processing certain like foods or whatever. I think he does incorporate that into his text, so that might be a good text to reference to. But what I would say is, yeah, the presupposition is if we're living in a Catholic society and a civilization, then no man from the outset will be robbed of his dignity or human rights, whether or not there's an IQ difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Because
The hard part is just getting people to understand that. Because,
Right.
you know, anyone who's operating outside of poor faith will assume that a Catholic-run society is a bad society.
Right.
You know?
Well, and it's also one of those things, too, that you have to keep in mind where Catholicism, you know, like, for instance, if I turn back the clock against feminism, but I don't have a Catholic society to truly enshrine the dignity that men and women are made in, then yeah, someone could easily make the argument, oh, well, if you turn back feminism, then people are going to be like, well, women are inferior and need to be treated this way or whatever. But it's like, you're starting from the presupposition that we're dealing with still in a moral society. I'm starting from the presupposition that all of us believe in Jesus Christ and deny any of those erroneous interpretations. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, awesome.
So, yeah, I get that. What was that book you mentioned by Bonaventure?
Not by Saint Bonaventure, but by a theologian named Bonaventure Hinwood. You can actually go on my Telegram right now, click the little spyglass icon, and just type in Bonaventure Hinwood or Race Reflections of a Theologian, and you'll find the book on my Telegram.
Okay, bet.
You got it, bro. I'm gonna probably go to the next caller if that's okay, Marco. But God bless you, bro. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, be blessed, man. You're doing some great work out here.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Have a blessed weekend, brother, and I will talk to you soon, okay?
Yeah, have fun at APAC as well. I won't be there, but you have fun, all right?
Thanks, brother. I will have fun. I'll make sure to tell you how it was, okay?
Perfect. See ya.
Let's go. Let's go. My boy Marco, dude. We got Bliss, and then we got Jack, and then I think after that I'll probably call the stream. Bliss, what's up, buddy? I think you got on mute.
Hey, Sap, how's it going?
How's it going, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Hey, one of the things I just wanted to say was I appreciate you stressing the Blessed Mother. I don't think anybody does that like you are right now, because she's the mother of the Word incarnate. You know, she's our mother and she puts us into battle, and we have to be under her mantle if we want to win. That's the thing that I wanted to say to everyone. You have to take her as your mother.
Amen. Amen. I don't like how so many people try to water down Mary's role in salvation. Because, like, this is something that Christian Wagner touched on. You probably heard him say this, but, like, too many Catholic apologists, like, almost try to, like, they try to kneecap us by, like, trying to appeal to Protestants. And so they'll, like, be like, oh, well, when St. Louis de Montfort writes in those very, like, esteemed ways about Mary, let's downplay that to not offend Protestants. Like, no, dude, let's upplay it. Let's have that rhetoric about our Blessed Mother. Like, if she is the mother of the Word incarnate, why would we not give her the love and the duty and the respect that she is due as our mother and Queen of Heaven? Like, let's not downplay our rhetoric. Let's say exactly those truths about our mother.
Yep, that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
That's what I'm talking about, brother. Was that
that's all I got for you.
Oh, gotcha. Well, God bless you, Bliss. I see your YouTube channel, Marion, bro. You're doing great work, man. Yeah. And I know that you're going to just continue to, you know, evangelize the world and spread devotion to our Blessed Mother and worship to our Lord Jesus Christ.
Yep, that's how we win, to Jesus through Mary.
Amen, brother. Hey, God bless you, Bliss. I'll talk to you later, okay, buddy?
Thanks, bro. See ya.
Let's go. That guy is so awesome. He's got such a beautiful devotion to our Blessed Mother, and I'm really inspired by his example and his love of Mary. Because too many Catholics are out here like downplaying like love for Mary and being like, oh, well, that takes away from Jesus or whatever. No, it does not. Our mother in every way, shape, and form points to our Lord Jesus Christ. If anything, by you downplaying our devotion to Mary, you're downplaying our love of Jesus Christ. And that's just not it. Go to Jack, and then I'll do Poppy Salazar and then call it. Hey, Jack, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Sap, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Hey, I just want to say hi. This is my first time calling in with you. It's an honor to, talk to you. I really look up to you.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on kind of evangelizing to Freemasons.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, I'm currently in the middle of writing a book on the contemporary role of Freemasonry in America right now. I've talked with a bunch of former Freemasons and current Freemasons. Some of them still claim to be Catholic, even though that's literally impossible.
It is.
Because I believe you're excommunicated, like you're soft excommunicated if you're a Freemason.
You are. It's what's the term I'm looking for? I think maybe it's ad divinus, but I don't know if it is. That might refer to priests. No, I think that refers to priests. I don't know if that refers to excommunication, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It is like an automatic. I think it might be de facto excommunication. I didn't know if it was latae sententia or the Latin term for it, but yeah, de facto excommunicated from the Catholic Church. Absolutely right.
Yeah, so I've just been researching it, kind of going down the secret society rabbit hole right now. But the book should hopefully, I've taken a little bit of a break from it just because it's the summer, but when school picks up again, hopefully I'll finish it by the end of this year, early next year. But it'll be my first publish. So I'm not trying to plug it or, shamelessly plug or anything like that.
Plug away. I'm okay with plugging stuff, man. If you got something to share with people that's going to help people's Catholic faith, please plug it.
Yeah, no, I feel like Freemasonry doesn't get the attention it needs. You go into every town. I live in the Northeast, so almost every town has some sort of Masonic lodge. And I think it's equally important for Catholics, especially for apologetics, because you'll see sometimes the Protestant apologists say, well, Catholicism is either infiltrated or heavily influenced by Freemasonry, and then they'll show you like these 48 pixel JPEGs of like tiles in a Catholic church and say that's like a Freemason lodge layout or something like that. It's like this ridiculous stuff. And I feel like a lot of Catholics should know the history, because it really isn't a part of like the majority of what Catholics are taught about kind of their relationship, because it was banned, in several countries, and it just always ends up rearing its ugly head. And I feel it just needs to be talked about a lot more.
I agree. Well, I think it needs to be talked about a lot more in that capacity. I will, not pushing back on you when I say this, just as a qualifier, I sort of don't like, though, in some Catholic circles when they sort of use the Freemasonry or like Freemasonry as kind of a scapegoat for not talking about like Jewish power. You know what I mean? Where they're like, oh, the old boomers at the barbecue are actually the ones who are like, making all those Hollywood movies that, depict the church in a negative light. And it's like, no, I don't think that's the case, though, big guy, with all due respect. But at the same time, we can't undervalue the role that Freemasonry has played in sort of the revolution against Christ sort of in the culture. And that's definitely something we still need to talk about.
Yeah, no, I definitely won't be like discounting, obviously, Jewish influence is definitely something that is still super pervasive today. And obviously
and it connects to the Mason lodges too. I mean, this quote probably from St. Maximilian Kolbe, but he said it basically is the long arm of the synagogue.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I could go on and on about it, and you're trying to wrap up. I've been following since the start, so I just wanted to say, I look up to you. God's given you a great gift for apologetics, and I really wish the best for you, man.
Oh, thank you, man. That really means a lot to me, and every single kind word you guys always share with me, there's no way I could value those words, man. It really does mean a lot to me. It really inspires me to just keep doing this and keep spreading the gospel any way I can with you guys. So I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. That's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Just really looked. This was a great way to end a really crappy work day. So
let's go, dude. Well, hey, I hope you have an excellent Sunday tomorrow. I hope that's going great, and I will be also praying for you and stuff like that. Okay.
All right, thanks. It'll be my first time altar serving for a mass tomorrow.
Let's go. So. Dude, it's going to be so exciting. You're going to love it, man.
I can't wait. Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, congratulations on that. And I will be praying for you to have a great experience altar serving. I'll see you later. Okay, buddy?
All right. Take care.
Take care, brother. Let's go. I always feel bad saying goodbye to people because I love talking to you guys. I'm not trying to be like, okay, we got to get to the next person. No, I'm horrible at goodbyes because it's that Anglo politeness. Because I really want you guys to know that like I do care and I want to hear every word that you guys have to say. We're gonna go to Poppy Salazar and then oh brother, sorry, I always forget how to pronounce your name, but I'm probably gonna just end the stream after Poppy Salazar just because I'm getting a little tired and just need a little snack. I might, though, if you guys want, I might go live and do call-ins on Instagram at PineSap6. Let me type it in for you on Brave just real quick so you can see. If you guys are not followed there yet, please follow just so you can get notifications of when I'm doing a live call-in or whatever. Because my main account on Instagram literally is blocked, so I can't do call-ins. So I have to do it through my backup account, but at PineSap6, I probably will do some call-ins later tonight, because I love, again, continuing to talk to you guys. That's also a little bit more low-key than doing a full-on live stream. So if you guys want to call in at PineSap6 and talk with me tonight and just have fun in the live chat or whatever, let me know and stuff like that. I might do that later tonight. But anyhow, Poppy Salazar, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I sure can.
Thank you very much. I know you're trying to wrap this up. I'll try to be quick. I felt the need. Look, I love everyone, Catholic and in this movement. I just cannot stand millennials. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the profile pictures, full name, like, oh, but I'm so sorry. I had to turn up the volume of one of them, clearly because he was on some Alexander Graham Bell phone or something. I had to say it. It was hard to get through it. I don't know what it is. Brutal. I don't know if it's the tone of the voice. But I think very important.
But anyway, go ahead.
A very important. Yeah, a very important thing that you said about social media, and that even if Nick and X and there's this whole thing around it, people still don't get it. A recent guy here on the far right in Portugal, 2024, and he just pulled like this Patriot Front stunt with like banners on the street and this goofy like whole apparatus. And I just would love to remind people that the new fight is completely online. I mean, the influence that you and Spexo specifically for me had. I just checked you after the live the other day. I checked your account. You had like 50K or something followers.
I think it's now to 50.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I think it's now to 54K on Instagram. And I'm trying not to lose my Instagram. I'm really trying to make sure I'm posting memes that they're not going to take down or whatever. I think I've done a good job of recognizing what they might find to be too edgy and like blocking out certain words or whatever. But I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, the whole fight is online. It's the new, the millennials who are going to get into it and edit videos. I love you. I don't think you get it, but good luck anyway. And then about the guy, I will definitely read the book. What was his name? It was Jack. I'll definitely read the book. But as PineSap said, I don't know. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because it's the US, but here in Europe, the Freemasonry is dead. It's like this whole scapegoat. Even the far right in Portugal use, the Freemasonry. I've seen Freemasons. I've explored that. Just be careful not to use it like as a comfortable spot to not talk about Jews and not talk about this influence, because you'll just go down a path of, as you said, the boomers in the barbecue. I mean, one of my friends, he's coming back to the church. He's like half Protestant, whatever, and he went to a Freemason meeting, and he was just telling how goofy it was, like these old people sharing stories, trying to be mystical, like some masculine version of like the Harry Potter thing. Insane. But anyway, I'll check out the book to see if it's interesting. But that was just it. Congratulations on those 50,000. You've been growing. You've been a huge influence to me. I had, as a lot of people, a lot of Zoomers, I had that phase through the libertarian anarchy type, away from the church, complete atheist, and then obviously reason settles in and you start to explore these things. But you were essential on. It was going to happen either way. But I came back to the church. I mean, it's a Catholic country, for God's sake. I went to church I went to mass when I was a kid. But you were essentially in that reconversion and that rehabilitation. Spexo and you, I think I started off with Spexo. He was like, I don't know, like 800, 1,000 followers or something. I was like, huh, what's this guy? Wait, Catholic and American? This is ridiculous. Like, come on, what are we seeing here? And eventually, I mean, and again, on the whole importance of TikTok, X, etc., it cannot be understated. I follow you, and then I look, funny memes, etc. I send them to like 2 or 3 friends, and then like a year later, there's a network of 20 people that know you, and I'm like, what just happened here? It's like this whole exponential thing, and everyone, you just normalize being Catholic. You just normalize like this mix between edginess and far right and etc. All within a moral framework. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you very much. I mean, it's really impressive what you've done with this whole thing.
Oh, dude.
And
I'm flattered. I just want to say I'm flattered, dude. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me.
Yeah. And then one final thing about I don't know how you call it, Mother Mary. To us is Nossa Senhora. This whole thing of Mary with Protestants, it's as you figured out, it's completely American. I mean, out of anyone in a Catholic country, it doesn't even cross their minds that other people do not, venerate Mary and do not have statues everywhere. It's like just this whole thing. So to any American Catholic who's watching, you really need to understand it's just a bubble. It's just like this thing that you live in. If you ever come to Portugal, by the way, Pinesep, talk to me. You're invited. You can. We'll go to all the best churches, etc. But it's really a specific. It's very cultural to not have this whole thing with Mary, and you should venerate her, and you should. It's such an important part of the motherly figure of the church. The church itself is a motherly figure, but especially Mary is a motherly figure to people. And so I would love to. Nossa Senhora de Fátima rogai por nós, says a guy on the chat on the YouTube. Exactly. But yeah. So thank you very much. You are much more influential than you can ever believe or think you are. And I'm sorry for dragging this on. I also have to go to sleep. Thank you very much. I love you, Pinesap. And have a great night or day.
Thank you, man.
I don't know.
Thank you. God bless you, brother. Thank you so much for the kind words. That really matters a lot and stuff like that. I just gotta say, I love our millennials and stuff like that. I love our millennials. I understand how hard it is to be to be in that environment. But it's one of those things where let's see. I'm really flattered by that, man. I mean, that's just what I wanted to do, and not in the manner of like making Catholicism cool, as if like, as if the faith is not cool within itself, right? But I think what I saw in like the Catholic sphere going on is people were almost like scared to use things like trends or funny memes or sort of like that kind of a cultural force and using that for evangelization. And I kind of wanted to bring like a different energy where it's like, hey, we're not afraid to make like funny memes, but they're still going to be moral. They're not going to have like immoral language or anything like that. We're not afraid to use like cool editing software or whatever to make just bombastic edits. Like, we're in touch, but we're not worldly. And I think that's a tenuous balance.
It's a very hard balance, because then you get to the Protestant cringe thing. But that's exactly. And I noticed you still get problems with it. There's still people that say something like, "Oh, why are you saying this? This is not very Catholic." You know, they don't get it. But the point is that it's working and that it's very important. And as you said, obviously the faith is cool. But for someone who is raised on this, well, you could say millennial or boomer Catholicism that's a bit more watered down, it's super important to have this outlet and to understand the faith in a different way and to understand it with people who think like you and who are your age and who are also on the internet and TikTok and etc. And yeah, and that's why you're absolutely instrumental in this kind of thing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much for those kind words. And you know, like I always say with this stuff, it's just all about Jesus at the end of the day. I mean, any way we can give back to him, even in the smallest ways, is what matters. And I'm just so glad to be a part of all of this and talk with you guys and just have this brotherhood and this fellowship. So God bless you, brother. I know you got to go to bed. I'm getting pretty tired myself, and I gotta just recharge my batteries a little bit. But this has been awesome, dude.
I agree. It's been fantastic. God bless you, man. Have
God bless you, brother.
Day, night, whatever it is. Okay, bye.
Let's go, dude. Poppy, Salazar, and everyone in chat. Guys, thank you so much for calling in. I'm sorry to anyone in chat who I didn't get to their call who's watching or whatever, but I'll definitely make sure to do more of these. I think they're really important, and you know, they're huge because it's like you guys have questions, you have concerns, you have things that you know, you want to focus on as a part of your spiritual life, and I think that's huge to talk about. So I definitely will do more call-ins. I've liked doing the Instagram call-ins though, because I like to see people's faces. I don't save those anywhere. So if you're ever worried about that being an issue, I don't save those. But if you're so concerned about face docs, I totally understand. And it's one of those things where I love doing this. I really love doing this. This hypes me up. This excites me. And I'm just so thrilled to be in this movement with you guys, just in this time, loving Jesus and trying to give back to him in any way we can, because he's given us everything. So with all your heart and soul, you know, love Jesus and love Mary with all your heart and soul. Give them everything you can, because they've given everything for us. And I love you guys, and I love Jesus, and I love Mary. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We got to 3 hours. Awesome. Wouldn't be a Pine Sap live stream without at least 3 hours of content. And next week, a lot of people have been asking, you know, are you going to cover the Jay Dyer debate? That's coming. We're going to do that next week. And I'm maybe thinking that will be the last live stream before AFPAC. So I'll maybe do like more Instagram call-ins and stuff like that next week, but I will definitely sometime next week. I'm thinking probably maybe Wednesday, Thursday range. I'm going to cover that debate I had with Jay Dyer, recapping that, kind of talking about it, debunking Jay Dyer, and it's going to be super, super fun. So be looking out for that, guys, and be looking out tonight if you want to go on at PineSap6 Instagram for call-ins and stuff like that. Be looking out for that. It's going to be really fun. But God bless you guys. I will speak with you later, okay? And always, always, always keep the faith and love Jesus Christ. Bye now.